Welcome to the Big Ten's Hollywood premiere tonight in LA. Utah State out of the Mountain West taking on the 13th ranked team in the nation, Southern California, the Trojans. A fan base that just over a week ago was very cautiously optimistic, suddenly is brimming with confidence after the Trojans' great showing in Las Vegas less than a week ago. The USC Trojans will be walking down that tunnel in just moments. One of the more intimidating places to be on a Saturday night. Part of the tradition every week, a captain, a Trojan, the tunnel captain. Tonight, it's Matt Barkley.
QR code on the screen to join our cell phone light show presented by Coca-Cola during tonight's intro video. Be sure to hold up your phone and enjoy the show.
Here come the Trojans out of the locker room. Barkley and his two boys wearing his number 7. He's the all-time leading passer in USC history, and a Trojan team that has had a week to prepare for this moment.
What's up, everybody? It's great to be back in the Cali, but I need you to get hyped! It's time for your Trojans! 5, 4, 3, 2, 1!
I'm snatching chains and burning tattoos. It's just big meat. All you dogs eating birds. That's a king with all his nines. He gon' see that.
Trojans.
And with that, we welcome you in. Along with Yogi Roth, I'm Guy Haberman. It's been 1 week of football. That's it. But around here, it feels like the Trojans just might be back. Yeah, well, this extreme trust, that's what Lincoln Riley told us Miller Moss has from his teammates. Extreme fear, that's what every kickoff coverage team has of Zachariah Branch. one of the most dangerous men in the nation. There he is. Almost took a punt to the house last year. Elliott Nimrod will kick it away. Utah State won the toss and deferred, and they will hang it up for Branch, and he's going to bring it out to start this home season. And he gets cut down. Good coverage by Utah State. A big play from Bronson Olivao. And here comes Miller Moss. His 4th year here, his first start in the Coliseum. Dreams do come true. Here he is at Matt Leinert's flag football camp as a youngster. There he is at the other Coliseum on a family trip. He's been a Trojan through and through. Halloween or the middle of June, and tonight a moment he's been waiting for his whole life.
And it's not too big for him. He understands the drama around it, the expectations, the hype, but to him, he always felt as though he could play this position at this school. Tonight, it's realized at the college.
A little confusion for Utah State defensively on the first snap. It's Woody Marks to take the flip, and he's got a big chunk of 8 yards on first down.
Big challenge tonight for Utah State is getting off of blocks. Woody Marks wasn't touched until 7 yards down the field. They got to find a way to get upfield, penetrate a little bit. They want a chance at an upset.
A back and forth nail biter less than a week ago. Short week for USC, but Woody Marks looks fresh on his first 2 carries.
This offense under Lincoln Riley, when it's been at its best at any of his stops, it's when they could run the football. He's got one of his best offensive lines since he's been at USC. A couple young guys at left tackle and right guard we'll get into, but this is an athletic and physical bunch.
Movement, flags, and Miller Moss won't get a free play. And we get to meet our referee, Tim O'Day. Looked like Gabriel Iniguez jumped. But we know an emphasis early this year, sudden movement, trying to draw.
Before the ball was snapped, false start, offense, number 4, 5-yard penalty, first down.
And it's against USC. Lincoln Riley just turned 41 on Thursday, which is young by many standards. Not quite as young as on the other sideline. We saw Nate Dreiling a moment ago, youngest coach in FBS football at 33 years old. Back to the ground. Big hole. Marks, big gain. And Woody Marks across midfield. And he erases the penalty with a 32-yard pickup.
You'll see number 11, Gabe Peterson, come into the screen, into the backfield. He's got a shot to make a play to the right of your screen. There is number 11, missed it. Explosive run, explosive play. Woody Marks making up for that penalty.
Moss's first throw, right on the money, Jacoby Lane, and he's got a first down.
This receiving core is really talented. It's also extremely young. Jacoby Lane, a star. They see the corner blitz. Great job from Miller Moss, recognizing pressure, throwing to pressure. That's how you teach a quarterback. When someone comes, it's going to be hard to replace that area. Nice job of the vet now in Miller Moss to the youngster on the outside.
He spread it around to 10 different receivers last week. Quentin Joyner's come into the game to spell the running back Woody Marks, and Zachariah Branch has also come in on offense for USC. First down. Here's Joyner patiently waiting to bust through the middle of that Aggie defense. 18 on the pickup.
Utah State's running a different defense than they've run all season long at the safety position. Playing really deep at the safety spot. It's allowing USC to get some yards in the run game as they get inside the 10.
5 plays so far, 4 runs on this possession for the Trojans. Back to the ground. And Joyner with a couple.
You reference Nate Dreiling. He came in here kind of like Danton Lynn came in here to try to just fix the defense. Then all of a sudden, he becomes the interim head coach. He's also calling the defense, so a lot that he is navigating there. They were trying to throw a couple different wrinkles that USC may not have seen on film in preparation for this game.
So far, the Trojans have got a clear view of it all. Moss, middle of the back of the end zone, too high for Lane. And it's 3rd and goal.
And 3 guys were open for a touchdown on that play. Threw it to the most challenging one in terms of the throws. Had to layer the football, get it up over the linebackers in front of the pylon. Oh, and those are those massive mitts. 5X gloves from Jacoby Lane, almost making a highlight reel. Kind of like what might be normal now for USC, these one-handers.
He's trying to do his Kyron Hudson.
Yeah.
So 3rd and goal. Here comes pressure. And it's dropped. Lane couldn't squeeze it, and he can't believe it.
He does not drop very many. The route's incredible. Looks like it's going to be an out route. Watch him whip back in. Watch his eyes. See how he takes his eyes right away from the ball at the end? You can see it right at the end. Watch his helmet from the backside. Boom, his head goes to the right, hands are to the left, and he knows it. That is the fundamental element at wide receiver. You catch it with your eyes, look it all the way in. Missed opportunity.
Michael Lance on for the field goal attempt of 23 yards. Made 2 last week, missed from 29, but he drills this out of the hold of Eddie Chapliski. So USC goes marching right down the field and then has to settle for a field goal. Let's take a look at tonight's Impact Players, sponsored by Auto Owners Insurance, simple human sense.
Jalen Royals is an elite wide receiver, not only just in the Mountain West, but I think around the country. He's got to have a game. Brock Lane at tight end, I think, can challenge the linebackers. Mason Cobb not playing tonight. Defensively, Anthony Lucas, man, he was impressive. His strength, his agility against LSU and their offensive front. And the transfer, Kamari Ramsey, is one of the lead communicators of this defense. So impressive in the back end. They're going to be challenged in unique ways tonight by this Utah State offense.
Utah State's got to feel like they already got a win holding USC to a field goal.
Huge, huge.
Now Michael Lance will kick away to Jalen Royals and Kyrese White. This will be Royals letting it fly, and we mentioned him in the open, but Bryson Barnes started last year for Utah here against USC, and he won, Yogi.
And he won when it mattered most. This run right here, it was less than a minute and a half in the ball game, 26 yards. 2 plays later, they're kicking the game-winning field goal. They were out of field goal range. His legacy was cemented. They're selling t-shirts that say, our quarterback's a pig farmer, because that's where he grew up, and that was part of his story, but he wanted to continue to write it as a starting quarterback. Didn't win the job initially, but tonight he gets to start with Spencer Petras sidelined with an ankle.
He took over in the middle of last week's game and helped lead Utah State to a win. And here he throws on first down, complete to Jalen Royals. That is the #1 target. Highlight him, circle him. That's the guy for Utah State.
He's so athletic. He's a 40-inch vertical guy. Curious to see what USC does in the back end, especially in the secondary. Jalen Smith chance. They're trying to slow it down.
They're one of the fastest teams in the nation last year and last week running plays. There's Royals getting a chunk back, and he'll make it a 2nd down and manageable. That 2nd and 12 coming up.
Right back to the well. Very similar concept. Trying to just put linebackers in binds. There's Eric Gentry. Misses 1 tackle. Cleaned up by Akili Arnold. But look right now. Look at these formations. They're going to try to put these receivers almost to the sideline. They're going to look to the sideline, and they are going to check, because the play clock right now, it goes under 15 seconds. They want to bleed this clock all game.
Rasul Faison, the running back, and he bounces it outside, and in 2 plays from 1st and 25, the Aggies got a first down. 13 and then 18 yards on back-to-back sequences.
Check this out. They catch the edge of USC's defense. That's Lucas. He gets sucked inside. Muhammad misses an opportunity. Ramsey takes a poor angle. And right now the misdirection and wondering, is the quarterback going to keep it? That can really manipulate the eyes of those overhang players on the outside. You see Muhammad, number 10 at the top. You see at 6, Anthony Lucas at the bottom. They've got to have tremendous eye discipline to play square against Bryson Barnes.
Into Trojan territory. Faison looking for somewhere to go, and he finds a hole to at least get positive yards. Yogi, what is USC missing without Mason Cobb on the field tonight?
Well, I thought a week ago he played his best game as a Trojan. He has had some impressive games since he showed up last year at USC, immediately became a leader, immediately became a captain in spring football. I think in this scheme, under Dan Lynn, they're allowing these linebackers to play downhill. I thought he did a really nice job against LSU. Now inside, Eric Gentry, he's going to have to pick up a lot of the slack. They rotated those three a lot a week ago against LSU, and when the quarterback is faking it, is he going to keep it? Is he going to give it? That is a big challenge when you're trying to play downhill.
Barnes, good pocket, and he throws it through the hands of Otto Tia, and it's 3rd down and 9.
And look, if I'm USC, I'm saying, make Bryson Barnes beat us with his arm. Right? Can we rush 4 with this defensive line, this new look defensive line? Every person on that defensive front is a transfer. Keep an eye on number 91, Gavin Meyer, and 99, Nate Clifton inside.
And now this Trojan crowd getting into it.
As he shows blitz, they often punch out of this.
They bring it. Trouble. Faison on the check down, and he can't get away from Easton Mascarenas Arnold, the transfer from Oregon State. And after Utah State got some chunk plays, the Trojans able to stop it up.
Keep an eye right there and right there, okay? Are they going to blitz? Are they not? They decide to bring Gentry, but they drop Muhammad. So it takes away the throw to Barnes' left. He's got to come all the way backside to his right.
There's Zachariah Branch, the sophomore for USC. So dangerous. There was a punt last week that almost went the distance, but he fair catches this at the 13-yard line. Punt of 34 yards. First home game of the season. First game at the Coliseum of the Big Ten era. Trojans with an early lead. Let's take a look at tonight's Impact Players, sponsored by Auto Owners Insurance. Simple human sense.
Well, no surprise that it's Zachariah Branch. He can truly tilt the field. Woody Marks, they're going to continue to run the rock with him. Defensively, keep an eye on Blaine Spires at the defensive end position, and then Ike Larson. He is the captain of this defense, and as you look at the shell, their defensive coverage, God, this is a different scheme than they ran in week 1. So USC has to adjust with those iPads on the sideline.
70 yards rushing on the first possession for the Trojans. A lot of it by this guy, Woody Marks. And he gets a good chunk on first down. The flag is down on the field.
Personal foul, hands to the face, offense number 79. Half the distance to the goal from the previous spot. Still a first down.
The veteran center, Jonah Monheim.
Always want to keep your hands inside. See how they just climb up and slide up there. Right there at the end is where they got him that right arm right into the face mask. Official all over it.
Second penalty of the game against USC. Here's Marks. Boy, he has looked good so far tonight. Take a look at by the numbers, fueled by Gatorade. Is it in you? Last week against LSU at the top, 68. First drive in yellow, 70 yards rushing.
It's a different monster on the defensive front here that USC is going against, and Woody Marks hasn't been touched behind the line of scrimmage the majority of this ball game.
Moss, patient. Lake McCree goes up to make the catch.
This is an adjustment by Lincoln Riley. The safeties are so deep from Utah State, so he said, all right, can we get our tight end behind the linebackers in front of those extremely deep safeties? perfect touch from Miller Moss.
Lake McCree, the big return. Last week he tore his ACL just before the bowl game and was able to come back and have his best game as a Trojan in Vegas. Here's Marks sliding through for another first down.
These safeties are so deep, Guy, and Woody Marks is getting to that level, right? Not really getting touched. The offensive line doing a nice job. He's cutting off their backsides. And the depth of these guys, take a look at the alignment and the depth of the back end of this Utah State defense. They want to keep everything in front of them. They're okay with it. But look at these three. I mean, usually you see two deep safeties, one deep safety. This is a different scheme that Nate Dreiling is running in this game against the Trojans than he has all season.
Moss, pressure, got hit. Heat right on him. John Ross May was bearing down. Let's go down to Rhett.
Yeah, guys, seeing those safeties in the parking lot makes you think of kind of the way that the NFL started to try to defend the Chiefs when they had Tyreek Hill, right? Force them to be patient, move the ball methodically down the field. Now let's see if Utah State can be patient with this defensive scheme and try to keep everything in front of them for this USC offense.
Yeah, like at some point you're thinking to yourself, can I just blitz if you're Nate Dreiling? But you just want to force SC. You have to be disciplined. Make them work it all the way down the field.
Moss, quick throw, unattended is Kyle Ford, and he picks up 13, 14 yards for USC.
It's a great point that Rhett just made, because here came a little blitz off the corner right there, and Miller Moss sees it all day long. That's no problem. He's gradual level. I mean, he's already graduated, right? He's working on the master's degree. He could see pressure as well as any quarterback in the country. Saw it well last week, seeing it with ease tonight.
Here's Joyner. And he breaks away from two tacklers. Miller Moss lead blocking. Joyner down the sideline, and he gets shoved out inside the 10. What did Lincoln Riley tell us? Nothing fires up a team like a quarterback making a tough play.
Toughness is a core metric to play for Lincoln Riley. Watch Miller Moss. He's not just being a spectator. He's not joining the student section. Nah, he's coming to get some right there. How about that left shoulder? Good job not making it the right one. Nice job with the left shoulder. Getting a little taste, spring in his back.
Lake McCree is beside Moss in the backfield on one side and Joyner on the other. First down and goal. Here's Joyner running behind McCree and stepping in for a USC touchdown. Well, that's what they came to see. We talk about physical defense. How about the physical ground game? Michael Lance on for the point after. You want to know how many rushing yards they've got tonight in 2 series? 131.
Pretty good, as was this play. Watch the offensive line. That's the big right guard, Alani Noah, leading the way for his back. Getting a little taste. The old lineman, SC up 10-0, and the lights are bright in Hollywood.
Next Saturday, Big Ten Tailgate is live from Michigan's campus to set the scene for a full day of football. The fun begins at 10 a.m. Eastern, 7 Pacific, only on the Big Ten Network and the Fox Sports app. You know, an 8 p.m. kick leaves plenty of time for activities.
Sure does. A beautiful SoCal day. You go down to the beach, get a little time, you go home, you rinse off, you drive here for a tailgate, the sun sets, and look at the stage we got tonight.
High temps today in the high 90s, nearly 100 degrees, but it's cooled down into the low 80s. A nice breeze. And a USC run game that is locked in.
Run game travels. Right, what was the quote last week from Lincoln Riley? It looked like a pretty good Big Ten game in his post-game presser. That looks like a pretty good first quarter in any conference. You can run it like this. And I think when you have a short week guy and you're playing a team that you're supposed to be able to handle and win at the line of scrimmage, to run the football, not have any negative plays. They have 0 negative plays right now. That is how you want to start off the party in your first couple drives.
Third possession for Utah State as the dangerous Jalen Royals goes in motion, and they get it to him, but off his back shoulder, he's able to at least turn upfield, get some positive yardage there. Eric Gentry on the tackle. Oh, there is Aaron Donald, the recently retired superstar.
Absolute. Former Pitt great.
You know,
Legend in the Rams and the NFL.
Well, think about this, Yogi. When you think about your time at USC, right? The last time USC ran college football, they were the only show in town. Aaron Donald shows up, Sean McVay shows up, championships, Jim Harbaugh and Justin Herbert show up. Rasul Faison, and he gets stood up by Kamari Ramsey. What did you say earlier? It's LA. The stars come out.
They do come out, and he's an absolute star. How about that with the hoops? Canoe basketball coach. So
Eric Musselman.
There it is with Coach Muss. That's awesome. He went viral the other day, just sitting outside the Coliseum trying to get in on social media. But it's a great story because it's not the first time Aaron Donald's been around this program. Eric Henderson, the co-DC, coaching the D-line, recruiting coordinator. He came over from the Rams, and Donald came to spring practice. You got to imagine on a third down, that D-line knows that a Hall of Famer's in the building. They're trying to get some.
You can see it in his eyes how much he's loving this. Third down and 3. Play clock low. Barnes, pressure, and it's broken up. Gentry was in his face. Kamari Ramsey was all over Brock Lane. And a hand for defense.
Remember, Kamari Ramsey came over from UCLA where he knew this defense, where he taught this defense. You see him in motion. He's following the tight end in man-to-man coverage. He is all over this, reading it like a book. That little fist pump.
I mean, that's a 7'1" and a quarter wingspan from Eric Gentry bearing down on Bryson Barnes. So now everybody on the edge of their seat for Zachariah Branch. Nimrod, used to punting at 5,500 feet. At sea level, he forces another fair catch. 44 yards on that boot. It's a SoCal Saturday night under the lights. Let's take a look at tonight's quick clips, brought to you by Sport Clips.
Well, you're seeing the backs at USC get loose, but to me, I'm watching the offensive line, the quarterback, everybody blocking downfield, really winning the line of scrimmage in a variety of ways, whether it's outside zone, whether it's pulling offensive linemen, and the excitement, the enthusiasm. Look, only got 6 home games at this beautiful, historic stadium. This team's challenge is to not miss a moment. Through almost a quarter, they have not.
8 first downs to Utah State's 9 offensive plays in this first quarter. Miller Moss, long throw to Zachariah Branch. Get him in space. Slip away from 1, and it takes 5 to bring him down. Well, there's so many guys to feed, Yogi.
They are, and you talked to Zachariah Branch. We did this week earlier at practice along with other receivers, and when asked about his numbers, their numbers, he said, look, we all want to celebrate one another. We are not a selfish group. We're a selfless group. They talk about it all the time. They know the goal, they know the desire to win, and they know the capability they have.
Moss, good pocket. Lake McCree sticks it right in his hands. And another big pickup for the young man. You see that big knee brace on his right leg, Yogi. This guy tore his ACL, we'll say it again, before the Holiday Bowl. And he's having the best start to a season in his career.
He has attacked the process. This is a guy who also had an injury years earlier, knows how to attack the process. His mindset was so crystallized and focused.
The officials letting Utah State substitute. Moss looking, loading up. Deep shot, Makai Levin, and it's knocked away by Avante Dickerson, the transfer from Oregon.
Let's go to the previous play because the execution was incredible. Keep an eye on these three right here as the play unfolds. And just imagine playing defense. Do I cover him? No, that's a challenge. Do I cover the tight end? Do I cover the guy over the ball? Beautiful job of Miller Moss. Eye discipline, reading the defense. He knows where defenders are going to go. A lot of times in air raid offense, you're saying, oh, they just throw it to green grass. They don't read coverages. Not what is going on at USC with Miller Moss. He's very cerebral. That is his unique trait.
Woody Marks. And this will make it 3rd down. About 6.
We'll see right now here for Utah State, do they decide to bring some pressure? The only blitzes they've done thus far is they've had 2 corner blitzes, and they've gotten burned on both of those. So they sub in a bunch of players, and they try to bring a little speed off the edge. This is the old 3-3-5 defense here. 3 defensive linemen, 3 linebackers, 5 DBs.
Movement, flags, Moss, and it's intercepted through the hands of Lake McCree. Ike Larson, if it stands, with his 2nd interception of the year. 35 yards on the return. A lot of movement up front. It looked, Yogi, like Utah State jumped.
Offside. Defense number 9. Enforcement of the 5-yard penalty results in a 1st down.
Offense, you're allowed to clap. Defense, you can't. On the clap, this new defense, remember, they ran in a bunch of fresh bodies, and Blaine Spires at the bottom of the screen. He jumped. Miller Moss did what every quarterback is trying to do. Take a shot. He tries down the seam. Misses his target in McCree. Interception nullified by the penalty. Here we go.
It was 3rd and 6, so it's 3rd and 1 after the 5-yard penalty. Woody Marks, 1st down.
You know, it might just look like a tiny gain, right, to move the sticks, but that was a beautiful play. The offensive line communicated pre-snap because they saw stem. They went from 3 defensive linemen the previous snap to 4. There had to be a lot of communication. They looked to Lincoln Riley on the sideline. He's saying, calm down. He gets him in the right play. And everybody stays on their track. Back takes it for a 1st down.
1 quarter in the books. The ground and pound. Trojans have shown up to the Coliseum tonight. Football on the Big Ten Network is sponsored by White Claw and by State Farm. Some of the Heisman winners, some of the greats. Reggie Bush returned his Heisman. Caleb Williams just won his. And tonight, for the first time, both of their numbers to the right of your screen. 5 for the first time for Reggie, and of course for Caleb, it's the first opportunity since he left for his number to sit there.
It is an incredible honor in that peristyle in. The history is so thick.
2nd quarter begins with Kyron Hudson's first touch of the night, and he breaks it for a 1st down.
We talked about feeding all these wideouts. Well, when they get their opportunity, they're going to go eat. How about this? Lake McCree, lead blocker. Kyron Hudson picking up where he left off, running right through an arm tackle. The leader of that receiving group teaches all these young guys how to watch film, how to take care of your body. They got one of the best cores in America.
Can't have enough guys like him. That's what Lincoln Riley told us about the guy that had the 2 best catches in college football last year. A big hit from Omari KK on Woody Marks.
Down here in the red zone for the Trojans, this is truly all about execution. Remember the first drive of the game, they drive all the way down, don't come away with points, have a drop in the end zone, have to settle for a field goal. What do they do now with McCree in the slot at the bottom of the screen, a tight end flexed out?
Jacoby Lane dropped a touchdown on that first drive. You know, he'd love another shot. Here's Lemon, And he jumps forward. Another first down. It'll be 1st and goal.
How about the athleticism of Mason Murphy, the right tackle? You'll see him, number 76. Got to jump right out. Watch him right there. Watch him just have the athletic ability to turn upfield. And you see the weapons. Here's Hudson. And then it's Lemon. Who's it going to be here? Whose turn is it now?
Deuce Robinson comes into the game. Wearing number 2 there at the bottom of your screen, along with Zachariah Branch.
At 6'6", he's a 6'6", he's a pretty good weapon.
Motion to the top. Moss looking. He goes for Robinson, and he can't bring it down. Good coverage again from Avante Dickerson.
Dickerson, the transfer from Oregon. They motion him across the field, a little angle route, trying to throw it up towards. That's a nice job. The defender just staying on him, tangled up a little bit. The goal there, you throw it towards the goalpost. Let that 6'6" wideout go up and get it.
Flag. Did Utah State just get flagged for some sudden movement on the defensive line? Let's see.
Abrupt and discouraging signals defense. By rule, this is penalized as delay of the game. Defense on number 10 and number 95. Half the distance to the goal, 1st down.
Again, there's a new emphasis. Watch the defensive line this year. And the question is that, you heard abrupt, is it unnatural? Is that a natural? You're allowed to stem, Yogi, but.
Yeah, that one to me, I'm curious why that was called. I get it if you could move your hands. If you go from one hand down to the other hand down, they'll call that. Not sure if that may have happened on that snap.
Moss, Branch, and he drops it. That's 2 touchdowns dropped tonight for a sure-handed receiving corps.
Well, and it's the same issue that plagued Jacoby Lane. Watch the eyes of Zachariah Branch. It hits his hands, and then he looks up to the pylon. Right, that is a tough ball to catch. There's a free runner coming right at you as a defender, but you got to secure the ball first. Zachariah Branch has made that play hundreds, if not thousands of times in his football life.
Lincoln Riley's trying to hand out touchdowns like candy bars, and nobody wants them. So give it to the running back. He earned it. Woody Marks with the touchdown. Both touchdowns for the Trojans on the ground. Each Marks and Joyner with 1. These drives feel almost automatic right now. Woody Marks, you just saw the number on the screen, averaging almost 9 yards a carry. Lance with the point after.
Well, look, the receivers may have dropped a few, but the blocking has been on point. How about Cade Eldridge right here at tight end? He's going to go to his left and lay a little wood and open up a path for Marks for 6. The backs, they're into it. The receivers, hey, their heads are up. They're saying, give me the ball again. We're going to make a play. Come on back. We'll see if they do.
Take a look at this. 148 combined rushing yards from Woody Marks and Quentin Joyner, each with a touchdown. Woody Marks is like 9 yards a carry, pretty good. Quentin Joyner, 16 yards a carry.
And I'll tell you what, the stats that I'd want to know is when do they get touched? This offensive line, this tight end group, even the wideouts downfield guy, it's like 5, 6, 7 yards before a defender is able to put a hand on him. Now, part of that, Utah State wants to stay deep. Curious to see if they adjust or they just continue to force USC to go on long drives.
Lance to kick it away to Royals. And he will let that fly. And the man with the field view of what USC's doing up front is Red Lewis. What's up, Red?
Yeah, guys, thinking about what Lincoln Riley told us about the evolution of this offensive line as it relates to the run game success. Remember his first year, felt like they weren't quite as talented as they needed to be, but they were a real tight-knit group. Second year, they were more talented, but not as cohesive. He felt like this year they got the best of both worlds. And man, when you get those guys pulling on some of those counter schemes and Woody Marks running behind it, it is a beautiful symphony when those things fit up right. Now Utah State needs some first downs to give their defense a blow here, Yoke.
Here's Bryson Barnes trying to throw, and he does. He connects with Royals, and that's a good play on first down. A good point there by Rhett. I mean, the offense is taking its time, letting the clock roll, but they've been on the field. Every USC drive has been at least 8 plays, so that's a lot of snaps for Utah State.
I think the game plan defensively for Utah State has been what they would have hoped. They're not giving up explosives, making SC earn it. It's offensively with Bryson Barnes. Had some momentum early on in their first drive, but need to convert. And I'd take a shot here. I mean, you got one of the better receivers in your league in Jalen Royals at the bottom of the screen.
Barnes will check it down to Brock Lane, and that's a first down for the tight end. They really wanted to manufacture more touches for him tonight.
Well, I like the concept. He and Royals on the same side of the field. See if they continue to do that. Again, you're seeing a lot of exotic formations tonight from Utah State. Kyle Cefalo, their offensive coordinator, former wide receiver at Colorado. His first year calling plays in this system, but tonight it doesn't look like it traditionally does for Utah State.
Well, you asked for it, Yogi. They do keep Lane and Royals at the bottom of the screen together. Barnes looking elsewhere. Pressure coming from the back, and he'll just heave it out of bounds. Jamil Muhammad was bringing the heat.
And to me, that's an MA, a missed assignment from Bryson Barnes. He had a chance just to play pitch and catch to Royals. It's easy to the bottom of the screen to the short side of the field. He's got to just take what USC is giving him right now. Right, SC, they're going to play their defense. They're going to try to make it look like a lot, but it's not going to be a ton from a package standpoint. Remember, Mason Cobb is not playing. We have not seen Jalen Smith tonight either at the cornerback spot. SC's playing majority zone coverage. Find those holes, see if you can live to second, third, and short.
Anthony Lucas flushes Barnes out, and he can't get enough on it, trying to get the ball to Grant Page. Greedy Vance there in coverage, and now it's 3rd and 10.
Okay, now this is the athleticism of Eric Gentry and the strength of Lucas. Watch those two right there. Lucas wins underneath against the tackle. Gentry goes over the top. Nothing doing for that offensive line against the athleticism. And here on a 3rd down, if I'm Dan Lynn, I'm bringing it again. Got Bear Alexander, fresh legs in a D tackle on the same side of Anthony Lucas right there.
0 for 2 on 3rd down tonight so far. Here comes heat. Muhammad got there late. This is Herschel Turner diving for the sticks. Looks like he's gonna be short. You think he got it, Yogi?
No, I think they're gonna go for it if I'm Utah State. And they've got to be aggressive here offensively. USC has done whatever they've wanted throughout the majority of this game. I think these are opportunities. If you're interim head coach Nate Drelling, you say, okay, let's go for it. And who am I going to? I'm going to my best wide out number 1, Jalen Royals at the bottom of the screen.
4th down and 4. 5 wide. Anthony Lucas comes free, and he causes the incompletion, and USC takes over on downs.
Anthony Lucas is becoming exactly who USC hopes him to be. Last year, kind of curious, saw some highs, saw some average. Through a game and a quarter, he's been pretty dominant. Look at him coming off the edge untouched. That is a scary sight if you're a quarterback. And Anthony Lewis at all 6'5", 275 is coming with nobody in his path.
Is that supposed to happen? Unblocked Anthony Lucas?
In no circumstances are you hoping to leave him unblocked. Nice job scheming it up from Dan Lynn, and miscommunication from Utah State.
Just like last week when he completed balls to 10 different players, 7 completions to 6 different receivers so far tonight for Miller Moss, and he's going to throw on 1st down. Plenty of time. Lake McCree turns around and then punched out, and Utah State recovers it. DJ Graham, the transfer from Oklahoma, played for Lincoln Riley there, knocked it out, and Clyde Washington recovered it. Exactly what the Aggies needed.
Huge turn of events. Beautiful play design, perfect location. Never felt Graham coming from the backside, did Lake McCree. He thinks he might have 6. Utah State says, nah, give us the rock. And they got life when we come on back.
Experience the expanded Big Ten Conference like never before with Big Ten Plus. Stream thousands of non-televised live events across the Big Ten. Plus, enjoy next-day game replays for every Big Ten game. Subscribe right now at BigTenPlus.com. USC looked like they were headed in for another score, but Utah State forced a fumble. And the Aggies offense will take over deep in their own territory. Rasul Faison. You know, Yogi, one thing we've not seen a lot of Bryson Barnes running the football tonight. We know it's a big part of his game.
Yeah.
But,
well, a huge part of it, I think, is that it's a really long season, right? They need Spencer Petras to recover from that ankle injury, and I don't know in this game if you want him to have 12, 14 carries when you know what is out in front of you at that position and within your schedule. So you want to pick and choose your moments. You're right, we haven't seen one, and right now, if you're looking at the edges of USC's defense, like Anthony Lucas right there at the bottom of your screen, number 6, they are charging down. It's a good opportunity to keep one here. Barnes.
There's Jalen Royals, who takes 1 and then 2 big hits from Easton Mascarenas-Arnold and DeCarlos Nicholson and holds on.
It's a little sit route. Ball's thrown high right in the zone. I mean, they've been trying to get this area all game long. And how about the physicality? Easton Mascarenas-Arnold. He and his brother transferred from Oregon State. Their impact has been felt from the moment they walked in the facility.
3rd down and 1.
Look at this formation. 4 right out to the top of the screen.
And here's the first run of the game for Barnes, and he takes a big pop from Eric Gentry after he picks up the 1st down.
And that's the right time to do that. We were talking earlier in the drive. There's a shot for him to pull it. That's just a simple QB lead run. The formations from Kyle Cefalo, the offensive coordinator at Utah State. They want to really challenge USC. Why do you do that? Well, if you make one guy miss or one defender overruns a gap, then you have an explosive play. Here's another one. Look at the wideouts. Look how split, how wide they are, stacked on one another, both at the outside the numbers.
Quick throw to Royals. And they can't quite get him tunneled upfield as Easton Mascarenas-Arnold comes up for the tackle. Pick up a 5.
You're really stressing the gap integrity of USC's defense when you have formations that are so wide and you stack wide receivers, and you really got to play inside out if you're the Trojans. Fortunately for USC, Easton Mascarenas-Arnold, he's so detailed and disciplined as a linebacker. He knows his route, his responsibility, fills that hole after a short gain.
Robert Briggs, the star running back for Utah State, also injured last week and not available today. Pressure coming. It's Gentry who hits the quarterback Barnes, who got it out to Faison, and he might have lost a yard there, 2 yards in fact.
It's such a physical front 7 for USC. You're wondering where's the pressure coming from all the time, and then all of a sudden you got that massive wingspan, 7 feet 1 inch from Eric Gentry. And you might be sitting at home saying, hey, that's got to be an accurate ball. Well, imagine somebody that big with a broomstick in front of you.
Or 2 broomsticks. So now it's 3rd and 7 after the loss of 2.
Keep an eye on Gentry right there. Lined up over the guard, number 18. You just got to be aware of where he is.
Here's Faison. And he gets tackled by Jacoby Covington, the first man there, reminiscent of the defense last week that seemed to make a ton of tackles. That's what the problem for that Trojan defense last year was.
And a big part last year was their secondary missing tackles. And how about this guy, the transfer from Washington, playing his best football, trying to stay outside the whole time, force him back in to his teammates. He's got such length, see him track that outside hip. Does a nice job of just corralling him, and then all of a sudden, there's that man again. Eric Gentry has been all over the field.
Stephen Cotson-Lee on for the punt to Zachariah Branch. And a fair catch at the 39. Last week, Kyron Hudson made not one but two incredible catches. First, he did his OBJ, NFL Stadium, NFL catch, and then late in crunch time, he held on a big hit, got targeted, and set up the game-winning score. Brett, we're not the only ones impressed.
No doubt. I hit up some of the Trojan wide receiver brotherhood to get their reaction. Went all the way back to Curtis Conway from those early 90s team. He said he jumped out of his seat when he saw it, but the more he watched it, the more impressed he was with the details. Also talked to Robert Woods, said amazing the way he went up with that one hand. It really got the team going. And I'll finish it for you here after this play.
All right, first down is a handoff to Woody Marks out to the 45. Brett, keep going.
Yeah, so Michael Pittman also chimed in. Second-round pick of the Indianapolis Colts, said amazing. Kyron a beast. Only he could make that play. And I love this one from Brendan Rice, the now LA Charger in his rookie year. Said Kyron's been doing it since day one when we were together. Always had the best hands on the team.
Yeah, wasn't it funny? Miller Moss said, I was surprised, but I really wasn't that surprised.
We've seen it in practice all the time. Lincoln Riley told us he's the most natural catcher on the team.
This is Mekhi Lemon with Deuce Robinson blocking out in front. Wow. Lemon's got the first down, and Deuce Robinson still blocking.
Well, we talked to Deuce Robinson earlier this week about the concept of there's so many weapons. How do you guys deal with not maybe getting as many grabs as you could somewhere else? And he said, look, it's no problem. There's no one scared. If one wide receiver makes a play, they're taking away my play. In fact, we just want to celebrate one another, know when it's our shot, when our time gets called, it's our turn to make a play.
Woody Marks, trick play, flea flicker, back to Moss, wide open, Lemon, and he can't hold on. Ike Larson recovered and broke it up.
From up here, you're thinking, this is a walk, this is a touchdown, no problem. The handoff, they flip it back. Mekhi Lemon wide open, and then there's that veteran, the captain, Ike Larson. Watch him play the hands. Never looks back, but look at him. Look at his eyes the whole time. He's just competing through the process of the catch, rips it out late. Phenomenal play by the junior, Ike Larson.
The big persona, kid who grew up in the Logan area, takes a lot of pride in being a Utah State Aggie. Here's Marks, blockers in front. He takes a big hit out at the 40. Wow. Inoka Mingau on Woody Marks.
It's been a physical game. Clyde Washington, the transfer from Purdue. Watch him play inside out on that screen. Gets right in front of Alani Noah to make the hit.
Clyde Washington on that hit. And with that catch, Woody Marks extends his nation-long streak to 47 straight games with a catch. And now we have whistles.
The previous play is under further review for a potential targeting foul.
All right, Yogi, so we've got Clyde Washington. They're going to review this. Back in Rosemont, they've already started looking at it. They stopped the game to review. Woody Marks is a runner, so he's not defenseless. So we're looking at the crown of the helmet here.
That is a 6-inch radius at the top of the helmet. Hard to tell from that angle.
Again, not defenseless. So, right, you agree with that, Yogi?
Yeah. Look, there's
so
two
it's
elements.
Not head or neck area.
Yeah, there's two elements to target. Ask yourself question one: was the runner defenseless? No. You go to question two: is it crown of the helmet? And that's what we're looking at. That's what the officials are looking at here and in Rosemont in the replay center. See the head drop. It's just hard to tell from that angle if it's truly the crown. I'm going to say I don't think so, Guy.
You know, his eyes are down. That's something they look at. But if it's a glancing blow, and I think that's going to be the question here, then it's not targeting.
There is no foul for targeting by defender number 4 on the previous play. Third down.
There you go. Good call. Let's bring in Dean Blandino here in LA for some clarification. What'd you see, Dean?
Exactly like you guys were talking about. Not a defenseless player. We're thinking about crown, and I just couldn't confirm that he actually got him with the top of the head. It looked more like the side of the helmet, and that's why they did not add a foul for targeting.
All right, thank you, Dean. Clyde Washington remains in this game, and it's a 3rd down and 2, and now a flag.
I'm just about to say this is 4-down territory, I think, if I'm USC entering that vaunted middle 8. See if this is disconcerting signals, if that's what they're talking about again.
Miller Moss thought it was a 1st down. He immediately pointed.
Abrupt and disconcerting movement, defender number 8. That penalty will be applied, enforced as a delay of game penalty, defense, 5-yard penalty. That penalty results in a 1st down.
Taz Williams, Nate Dreiling wants a conversation that he's not going to get.
Let's take a look at it here. Okay, so here's the deal. You can't change hands, and that's really what it is. See number 8 there right on the edge? Right hand down, then left hand down, then right hand down. That's where it's going to get called all season.
Zachariah Branch, with half the defense chasing him, gets away from one defender, leaps another, and he's got another USC 1st down.
Oh, Miller Moss is right down where he gets tackled too. He's just following the playmaker, and every time Zachariah Branch touches the ball, this entire stadium is on their feet, Guy. Woo! An Olympic year, looking like the dynamic track star that he is as well.
I said leap him, man. I didn't know it was his omen. And did you? I think McCree saw Branch starting to jump and lay down.
Yeah.
A player down on the field, so we'll step aside. Under 4 minutes to go here in the 1st half.
At Ace, we know not all paint is created equal. So to do it right, start with our most durable paint. Only Ace has this collection of premium brands like Benjamin Moore, Magnolia Home by Joanna Gaines, and Clark & Kensington. And Ace has premium service and quality paint that stand up to the test of time. Your local Ace has gallons of durable paint like Royal, starting at only $29.99. And right now, get 20% off gallons of select Benjamin Moore premium interior paint.
Ace is the place with the helpful hardware, folks.
Big Ten Today, weekdays, only on the Big Ten Network.
That's Ike Larson, who was down a moment ago, walking off the field for Utah State, which is good to see. He's been playing so hard tonight, which is his MO.
And he's really the dynamic leader of this team. He's done it on special teams in his career. He's done it on defense. He does it everywhere. He makes music. He's a DJ. I mean, he inspires the team in so many different ways. And he's having a heck of a game tonight. Great to see him moving like he was there on the sideline. Hope to see him back soon.
Result of the play was a 1st down for USC.
Okay, so now if you're USC, again, I referenced the middle 8, the last 4 minutes of the 1st half, the first 4 of the 2nd. You try to steal a possession. Remember, Utah State's going to get the ball coming out in the 3rd. The Trojans want to be the last one touching it here.
Brian Jackson has come into the game at running back, and there's Jay Fair with his first touch. The junior transfer from Auburn, who the coaches told us did earn some more snaps this week with the way he played last week.
There's just so much depth, right? They just come at you in waves with the playmakers. You know, we had a chance to spend some time with the receivers, and they know there's like 4 or 5 #1 receivers on this team for other programs, but they choose to be here and be a part of this Lincoln Riley offense.
Brian Jackson, the freshman, his first career carry, and he gets carried for the first down. The young man from McKinney, Texas. And a big run for him in his first opportunity as a Trojan.
And he's just following the tight end. You'll see Blake McCree right there at the top of the screen. How about that block? Nice job by him leading the way. These tight ends are vicious. These lined up at fullback again, 87 McCree.
Cade Eldridge in there as well, so 2 tight ends for USC. First down and goal, but Utah State's going to take a timeout here with 2:22 remaining.
Half, it will be 30 seconds in length.
USC trying to add on. Coming up, stick around for the Big Ten live halftime report. Dave, Ashley, Marcel will take you through the first half highlights and get you up to speed on a busy Saturday across the Big Ten. Next on the Big Ten Live halftime report. After the Utah State timeout, first down and goal for USC. Same formation. And back to Jackson. And the first man there, Clyde Washington, slowed him down. And now it's second and goal.
Look, if you're the Trojans, you got to finish this with 7, right? It feels as though they've dominated this game, but it's only 17-0, right? Like when you look at the score, you're thinking they could be up 4 or 5 scores, but they haven't been able to do that because they're getting limited possessions with the style in which Utah State has played on offense.
This is the 2-minute timeout.
So 2 minutes remaining in the first half, and Lincoln Riley going to talk it over with Miller Moss. Let's take a look at tonight's team comparison, sponsored by Ace Hardware. Numbers in yellow are big, very big.
They have dominated this game offensively. Their challenges: first drive, drop touchdown, only field goal. Previous drive, I think they're walking in for a touchdown, fumble. USC's got to score here, because if they only come away with 3 or another turnover, this Utah State team's going to have some life.
USC hasn't changed the formation, Yogi. Back to Brian Jackson, and he gets stonewalled by Clyde Washington.
Watch the instincts from number 42, Washington. Just reads his keys, and he's immediately in the backfield, untouched.
Timeout down on the field. Second timeout taken by Utah State, with a third and goal coming up here for USC. Thursday, don't miss women's soccer when the Trojans open Big Ten play with a matchup against Washington. Live coverage begins at 9:30 Eastern, 6:30 Pacific, only on the Big Ten Network and the Fox Sports app. All right, so Utah State takes the timeout. USC gets some more time to think it over. They have spread the ball all over. They really loved the run game tonight, but didn't work on the last play. So what are you thinking?
Well, as they come out here in this personnel grouping, it is all wideouts, all playmakers. And in the slot at the bottom, you got 6'6" Deuce Robinson. You got the fastest player, you could argue, in the Big Ten on offense, Zachariah Branch at the top. I'm feeding one of those two because it's man-to-man across the board.
Third down and goal. Pressure coming. Moss to Branch, and he gets stopped. Stuck by J.D. Drew, and now it's fourth down, and here comes the kicking team.
Drew read this all day long, playing that corner position, drives on it. Perfect textbook tackle. Trying to get Branch in space a little bit, but Drew did not run with Hudson. He ran a fade. Another stall drive for the Trojans.
Well, and Nate Dreiling, the interim head coach, he's using his timeouts here. He's managing. He's going to get the ball first to start the second half, as you said, Yogi. But now he's also got his team 1:44 remaining in the half after this USC kick.
Well, the good thing for Nate Dreiling and his staff is their scheme is up-tempo. That is how they practice. That is how they play. Just not today against the weapons that USC has, the offense that USC is. So they've tried to slow the game down offensively, Now with a $1:44 left, when they get this ball back, it's going to be comfort zone for this system.
Took over on July 2nd as the interim head coach after Blake Anderson was fired. And it was really a whirlwind for him, he told us, learning all the names of offensive players. He was the defensive coordinator. Lance on for the field goal, and he's got it. So Utah State forces the 3 points. They trail by 20, but they've got the ball with 1:41 to go in the half. Coming up in 4 years, this beautiful stadium will host the Olympics for the 3rd time ever. It'll be the only building in the world to host 3 Olympic track and field and opening ceremonies events. The track and field events will be here. They're going to build a platform on the field, so the track will actually be 14 feet above the playing surface. The beautifully rebuilt, reloved peristyle there, the Olympic cauldron beyond it. I mean, what a place to watch a football game. Here's Jalen Royals to try and get the Aggies into field position here. And a good return across the 25. USC made a big jump last week in the AP poll. Looks like a flag is down over by the USC sideline. USC was the biggest riser in the AP poll last week, moving up from 23 to 13, taking LSU's spot.
During the return, holding return team. 10-yard penalty from the spot of the foul. First down.
I mean, when I look at this thing, I'm saying, okay, what do we really know through 2 weeks? Well, we know that anybody can beat anybody with the Notre Dame game. Oregon is in a battle right now against Boise State. Michigan goes down. I think Texas is real. And we'll see how this thing plays out. I mean, that's going to be the fun part of this season with the expansion of the playoff. USC in those power rankings, if you believe in those, they just keep climbing.
They go to Michigan in 2 weeks. So no timeouts for Faison, and this is a big chunk on first down, and he gets out across the 35 to the 36.
That's the biggest play of the night for this Utah State offense. And I'm thinking after that penalty, okay, just run the ball, get out of the half, okay. Don't give the Trojans the ball again. Get an explosive play, and now you're moving.
Barnes, good pocket that time, padded and picked off. Mascarenas Arnold, he's got it down at the 40, and USC's defense steps up and makes a big play.
Well, they're trying to be aggressive. It's a wide open receiver down the seam, and Gavin Meyer, the transfer from Wyoming, right in the middle of your screen. Watch him put his hand up, left hand, tips it, and then another transfer. Mascarenas Arnold makes the play. Here it is, what a look right here. Look at the effort. Gets off a double team, just keeps pressuring, and there is a lane there for Jalen Royals. Batted, pick, and now here comes USC trying to make a little noise in the final minute.
Utah State, they have no option here, right? They got to get this ball down the field and try and score before the half.
You got to take a shot. I mean, they haven't tried to push the ball down the field all game long. Got no problem with the aggressive nature.
And USC add on. Here's Woody Marks. Hey, Rhett, what you got?
Just listening to Coach Henderson down on the sideline earlier in the game, with that ball coming out of Bryson Barnes' hands quick, he was reminding his guys to get those hands up in those passing lanes. So now taking that from the sideline onto the field with what Meyer did. It's
just incredible how quickly these transfers have integrated right into this defense, Yogi. Like Gavin Meyer, Mascarenas Arnold. Here's Lake McCree, who's having a career night. He's going to add to it as he goes out of bounds. He's up over 80 yards receiving in this game.
It's 6 defenders who start for USC were additions via the transfer portal, and a couple of them after spring football in Grady Vance and the aforementioned Gavin Meyer.
Check on the penalty.
Holding. Offense number 6. 10-yard penalty from the spot of the foul into the run. Still second down.
Makai Lemon.
Okay, now the big thing here for Utah State, remember, they've been playing a defense all game long that they have not played. Nate Dryling's, his defense doesn't traditionally play like this. So at his previous stop, New Mexico State, they ran this defense one time last year. It was week 2, and it's safeties that are really deep. So right now, you see that 3-3-5 look, 3 down linemen, 3 backers, trying to keep everything in front.
So 2nd and 11. Moss setting up all the time. They hit Woody Marks for a first down. He gets cracked by DJ Graham and holds on, unfazed.
The throw will make you stand up and say, whoa, watch this. He's going, he sees it the whole time on the wheel route. It's firm with an arc over the nickel defender in front of the corner. Beautiful placement from Miller Moss.
3 defenders, the running backs can catch. Woody Marks can catch, right? One of the best pass-catching running backs in the country. Now he can run. And he churns down to the 15.
Isn't it kind of fitting for Woody Marks to be having the game he's having on the night that Mike Leach goes into Washington State Hall of Fame, the transfer from Mississippi State who played for Mike Leach and caught so many balls out of the backfield. We'll be back with a pretty fun 27 seconds.
Kicked a field goal with 1:40 left in the half, got a pick, and now trying to turn it around and add on.
Kobe Lane, bottom of the screen. Is there help? Are they playing man coverage?
This is Branch. And that's well defended by Utah State. Avante Dickerson made several plays for that defense tonight, and he's doing it with one hand. As you can see, the club on the right hand of Torrin Union was over there to help.
Tell you what, this defense has done a nice job of just playing really sound football. Not surprising when you think of Nate Dryling and his history and where he's been.
Yogi, is that thing allowed? The club? It was huge.
Yeah, it is. It's definitely a challenge when you're trying to capture a guy like Zachariah Branch, though.
Moss, right on the money. Marks got a block, cuts it back, and he's got a first down. 14 seconds.
How about the ball placement? Front shoulder. This is different than the one to the Branch. Why do I say that? If it hits the front shoulder, that front number, the front part of that number 4, you can catch it on the go. Woody Marks is doing exactly that. He didn't have to slow down, have to hesitate. Watch him, foot in the ground, follows his blockers, almost scores if it wasn't for a nice tackle there from Clyde Washington.
USC used its second timeout, so one more remaining. Rhett?
Yeah, guys, you know, we were talking about Kyron Hudson earlier, right, with the miraculous catches he made against LSU. Well, let it be known he can do the dirty work, too. He was making that block at the point of attack to spring Woody Marks. Love seeing those receivers on the perimeter get after it.
It really is impressive how much is asked of these guys and how little sometimes you may get the football. So one timeout left for USC. No more first downs to stop the clock. Woody Marks over 100 yards in this game. Moss looking back at the end zone, and Robinson couldn't bring it down.
Only 4 seconds tick off. Here's 2nd and goal. That was a really nice job of Miller Moss. Seeing the pressure come and just trying to hitch back a little bit. He's looking at Robinson the whole time, getting behind that defense. It's the second time they've ran a play like that where you're trying to just put it up high with a 6'6" wideout, and they don't convert.
They do have a timeout. Does that mean running the ball is an option?
Yeah, I don't. Right now, you look at him in this formation. They got so many weapons. You got to just be careful with the clock here.
Here's Mekhi Lemon. He's got a blocker. Cuts it back and leaps into the end zone. Touchdown, Trojans. The first start in the Coliseum for Miller Moss. His mom looking on. and he throws a touchdown pass. He's done a lot of great things here at USC. But, you know, he's been waiting to have a first half like this. He wears number 7 to honor his mom. Her birthday is on March 7th.
And I'll tell you what, the command, the sermon on this play was impressive. They bring a little bit of eye candy, and he says, let me get it out to Mekhi Lemon. And Mekhi Lemon says, let me do the rest. Make up for a couple drops by this receiving core. Puts the brakes on, whoop, cuts on back, finds himself into the end zone. And it's a party in the stands, and it's led by Miller Moss's mom, also rocking the number 7. How about that, Miller Moss? Multiple times thus far in his young career as a starting quarterback, he has met situational moments, guy, and showcased mastery around him. Go to the 2-minute drill last week. You go to this situation right here. We talked to his mom in pregame. Emmeline, she goes, you know, I'm always so nervous in these games, and we understand why. Because these are nerve-wracking moments, but for Miller Moss, if he had a message to her, he'd probably say, hey, Mom, I got this. I got this, no problem, no problem. Just like I was at the Coliseum in Rome back in the day, I got it right here at the Coliseum in LA.
His uncle there, who was on the left of your screen there watching alongside. Family in town. Of course, this is the town, right? Family's here, West LA. And it's number 7. Now, who else wore number 7, Yogi?
Oh, yeah. Matty, who's in the house, Matt Barkley.
He brought him out tonight. Matt Barkley was another number 7 from LA. A lot of pressure. You know, this is a guy who grew up going to Matt Leinert's camps here at USC. He's a contemporary now, but back then, he was just a kid with a dream.
To be that young, and he said when he was about 6 years old, he said, yep, I want to go do this thing. And he used to come to practice back in the day when Pete Carroll was the head coach and Matt Leinart was playing, and he'd watch practice as a 6 and 7-year-old saying, one day I'm going to be that dude. And in his 3rd start in his career, safe to say he's been exactly that.
The touchdown set up by the interception. Miller Moss's first career touchdown pass, his start here. First career pass here as the starter at USC. A 27-point first half for the Trojans. And let's go down to Rhett with Lincoln Riley.
All right, thanks very much, Guy. Coach, boy, how good did it feel to get that one in the end zone there after you had to settle for a couple of field goals in the red zone earlier?
Yeah, it was good. You know, our red zone execution wasn't very good, but that was important. A good 2-minute drive, and we played some really good complementary football. Defense has done a great job getting us the ball back, and good to get that one in.
174 yards on the ground in the first half, Lincoln. What's been working in the run game?
Yeah, I think our line's done a nice job. You know, Woody, Quentin, our guys have ran the ball well. That was a big emphasis point for us. We didn't feel like we ran it well enough last week and need to do better. So good half, but we need to do it again second half.
Message to keep these guys rolling here in the second half, keep that pedal to the floor.
That's what we do. You know, that's what we do. It doesn't need to be anything different. The scores are relevant. We got to come out and play our hearts out.
Thanks, Coach.
Thank you.
All right, Red. There was some question. Would there be a little letdown, a short week, high-energy game against LSU? 27 points say no letdown. Coming up next, the Big Ten Live halftime report. Back here in LA, the Coliseum, historic site, and a 27-0 lead for USC as we look ahead to the second half. The question right now is, when will the second half be? There's a partial power outage. You might be able to see some of the lighting is out right now here at the Coliseum. And so the officials are going to get together with the coaches, the 2 head coaches, and talk with them about whether there's enough lighting as it is. And right now, I know you guys are looking at this picture saying, oh, it looks like enough light to me. They're going to talk about whether this is enough light to continue playing or if they need to wait. Guy Haberman, Yogi Roth back here with you. So I know we turned the light on in here to help.
seen a lot of different things in college football. Never really seen this, right? Remember in the Super Bowl a couple years ago, all the lights went off and the power went out. Be curious what it looks like down on the field, because you see some shadows from the players, how impactful that is and what the coaches might be thinking.
What's it like down there, Rhett, on the field?
And you can see the top, couple of sections there in the upper part of the stands are definitely in some darkness, but the field does feel pretty well lit. Just talked to the officiating crew here, and it does look like we are going to get this kickoff rolling. Estimate about 3 minutes trying to get Utah State out on the field and warmed up after they kind of delayed them a little bit coming out of the locker room at half.
All right, so a 3-minute delay. Thank you. You can see there's some of the lights that are out, and we'll see, right? I mean, once you start going, how the shadows affect, if at all, the returners, the receivers. But that's a good update. I like that update from Rhett. Let's take a look at tonight's first half check-in, sponsored by Allstate. You're in good hands with Allstate.
Well, I think it's been pretty dominant by the USC Trojans in a bunch of different phases. Of course, on the ground, as Coach Lincoln Riley talked to Brett Lewis on the way into the half. I mean, this offensive line, this tight end group, they've been dominant. Some uncharacteristic drops in the passing game from the wideouts. But really, the thing I've taken to heart after reflecting on the first half is the physicality, especially up front. And it starts on the offensive line, but the tight ends do it. The wideouts do it. These backs haven't been touched in the backfield for the majority of the first half. You see him just getting north and south. Who doesn't love it when not only the backs, the tight ends get involved, but how about even the quarterback, Miller Moss? He picked up a little block as well, but a very physical first half by this USC offensive unit. Even the wideouts, when they had a couple drops, they found a way to make sure they got physical in the run game as well. It's just a way you keep yourself active, even if you aren't playing great on the outside as a wideout.
Blocking not optional, right? Blocking required. The toughness is such a big part of what this program has been. It was great. It's part of what Lincoln Riley came up in. Remember, he told us in USC, Texas, he's like, you're the quarterback and the free safety. It's about toughness. You got to be tough to be in Mike Leach's quarterback room.
That's right. That's a hallmark of this program and a foundational year for this team. And I think even this, you want to, as a head coach, you want to try to create adversity as often as possible. This is a version of that, right? The lights aren't great. Anybody who's ever played football, you've played in the backyard with only the car lights on or just one street lamp on. Like this is no big deal, I think, for the players. And as I referenced the foundational year here in Denton Lynn's first year and Lincoln Riley's third, this is really notable for me, guys in their second year in the program, whether it's via the portal like Emmanuel Pregnon in his second year on the offensive line, or a true second-year player like Alani Noah, or this receiving corps. You see all those names, Zachariah Branch, Deuce Robinson and company. And then defensively, it's kind of the same deal. When you look at a lot of the impact players, they're in their second year. We've seen Braylon Shelby on the field in the first half. Not seeing Mason Cobb tonight, but Bear Alexander, Jamil Muhammad, Anthony Lucas, their second year. And we talked to Lincoln Riley about that exact thing and said, Coach, do you agree with that statement? And he goes, man, yeah, we actually have a foundation. Like, you feel like you're not just hitting the ground running like they did in year one when they hit lightning in a bottle. Year two, they found some struggles, I think, in the transfer portal, especially in the offensive line. But now there's guys that know the philosophical approach in all aspects, offense, defense now with this new staff, nutrition, how you got to work, how you got to go to class. All of those elements, I think, allow this team to be really healthy, And you look at what happened today in college football, the Trojans, like, I know their schedule's brutal after a bye, but they got a way. If they can finish this thing off healthy tonight, they're going to make some noise in the Big Ten.
Well, but part of that on the foundation, you're going to go to the portal, right? You can't avoid it, even if you want to build up, which they do. You want to develop your pass rushers, all those sorts of things. But we talked to Lincoln Riley about picking the right players in the portal, right? To make sure that all of a sudden Mascarenas Arnold steps in and he can be a leader of this team. Guys respond to him.
It's so hard. I mean, I go back to when I coached here at USC, and I think what is often misconstrued around the country is you think you coach at SC and you get all the best players and they all come. And now with NIL, you can do all the things that are legal in college football. They're in the transfer portal. Not necessarily accurate. It is a challenge to deal with the external pressures and expectations and the internal realities, Lincoln Riley has a solid foundation in the beginning of year 3.
In a slight delay because of a slight power outage. Let's go back down to the field and Rhett. What you got, Rhett?
Yeah, another update there. It sounds like now that Utah State is out onto the field, they're going to give them 3 minutes to warm up, and then we'll get the kick. So still just a couple minutes away, but doesn't look like we're going to be dealing with any sort of extended delay because of this power outage. That's what head coach Nate Dreiling would like to see different on his offense, that has not had that kind of power to sustain drives. Kind of felt like his whole team came out a little shell-shocked. They settled in a little bit offensively as they get the ball. Wants to see that offensive line continue to hold up and pass ball, but they got to find a way to sustain some drives. And then defensively, he's really proud of the way the guys kind of settled in and kept staying with the plan, which, as we talked about a lot in the first half, guys, was making USC earn their points with those long drives and then try to stand up and hold up in the red zone, which they've done a couple of times. So stick with the plan on defense and try to find a way to stay on the field with Bryson Barnes.
Yeah, Rhett, you're all over it. I think they got to find a way with Bryson Barnes to create some explosive plays. They tried, ball was batted, interception led to the late score, but I'd love to see them open it up. Be curious if they go back offensively to what their roots are, which is tempo, explosive plays, taking shots at these weapons. What do they allow Bryson Barnes to do here when they get the ball to kick off the third quarter?
Yogi, you mentioned some of the big games, some of the big losses around the country today. Notre Dame falling to Northern Illinois. So Trojan fans walked in happy today because they saw Notre Dame lose. Maryland and Michigan State. Jonathan Smith with his first Big Ten win for the Spartans. Iowa falling in a heartbreaker to Iowa State. Penn State got tested today, really tested by Bowling Green. They made the most of that and were able to come out with the victory. And then in that huge game, Nebraska and Colorado, Matt Rule's group looked dominant.
Absolutely dominant on a huge stage, the whole nation watching. Look, this is a program that's been down for way too long. I know Saturday of week 2 isn't over yet, but when it is, we're booking our travel because we're on our way to see Nebraska next weekend with as much momentum, you could argue, as they've had in quite some time.
This plays the same. Remember, what a difference a year makes. Bryson Barnes last year came in here as a starter for Utah and upset USC. Started tonight in place of the injured Spencer Petras, who transferred, of course, familiar to people, right? He spent 6 years at Iowa, his 7th year at Utah State. He was the starter, hurt last week in the win over Robert Morris of FCS football. Barnes takes over, gets the win. Last minute, they go up all the way to yesterday, decide that Barnes is going to start. And what we're not seeing, his legs was such a big factor last year when he was the quarterback at Utah in beating USC. Here at Utah State, they have not run him much.
Yeah, only one true quarterback run from Bryson Barnes. Look, they don't want him to get injured. They're not the deepest at that position. But I think here on this early drive, they've got to go back to what they feel most confident and comfortable in. I'd create a little tempo, a little bit of quarterback run. See if you can get a score here, because at some point, you got to take a couple shots here to try to get back in this thing.
All right, after a brief delay for the power outage, we continue on. The lights, those who are with us, we play with them. And that's what Utah State's going to do. They had a chance late in that first half to maybe try and get down and put themselves in position to make it a 2-score game. Threw a pick. USC took the football and punched in a touchdown at the end of the half. We had such incredible heat, right? A big heat wave this week. It's been very hot, triple-digit temperatures. There were power outages throughout LA.
Be enforced from the end of the kick, first down.
Yesterday and today, and so I know you driving around home here, Yogi, you saw some of that, and so the word we've received is that is what is believed to be the reason for the power outage, the excessive heats earlier today. Now it's in the low 80s, a little bit of a breeze, but still relatively balmy for Southern California. Barnes is going to hand it to Rasul Faison, who falls forward for 5 yards.
So we'll see what they do here on this drive. They've had success. You go back to the first drive of the game, and Utah State was able to move the ball a little bit. Felt pretty good even on that drive before the batted ball and pick before the half. So it looks like they're going to try to continue to eat up the clock as much as they can, see if they can put a drive together.
Just to clean up the penalty you saw, it was an offsides on Christian Pierce of USC. So on the coverage team, that's why they tacked on the penalty yard. Second down here for Utah State, trying to get something going. First touch of the game for Kyrese White, and he's got a first down. Big performance for him last week. A graduate senior, made his first start in the opener, had a career day, went for 131 yards and 2 touchdowns, but they've not been able to get him involved until now.
Yeah, and he was one of the better stories even of week 1. This is the guy who also transferred from Utah with Bryson Barnes. In fact, was his locker mate at Utah. Said, look, he and I have a connection. We saw it a week ago. They got to get it going here tonight. As you see again, these wide splits, trying to create a clean picture.
Barnes. And he just has to throw it away. Rhett?
Yeah, real story of patience and perseverance, right? Kyrese walked on at Utah, earned a scholarship. Wasn't getting the opportunities there, walked on at Utah State, earned a scholarship. Love the respect that this program has for the way that he works. Talked to his high school coach this week, Fred Fernandez down at Roy High School, called him one of the best he's ever coached. We tried to get him the ball any way we could. He has another gear with the ball in his hands, and what you saw on Saturday, talking about last week, when he had 3 catches, 2 of them go for touchdowns, that's who he is. By the way, had 3 catches for his career going into that game.
Wow. That's incredible. Here's Barnes, and there is Brock Lane, the tight end, a first down for him, and he gets down inside the 45 to the 41, 16-yard pickup.
Again, if you can give any quarterback a clean picture, they know how to distribute the rock. Bryson Barnes is dramatically experienced in major college football. This drive, it hasn't been a lot of shifts or motions. It's static, get to the line of scrimmage, wait the play clock to go down as low as you can. Don't allow USC to adjust, and you're kind of playing who has the chalk last.
Faison dancing away, but Bear Alexander wraps him up around the ankles, and up top it's Braylon Shelby.
Braylon Shelby is a fascinating story, and somebody for USC fans to continue to track. A huge recruit coming out of Texas. Played a lot against Utah and Bryson Barnes a year ago. Actually got beat on a wheel route. Big explosive play in the ball game. But he has truly made a change in his body. He might be the best pass rusher off the edge for this program, and I think as the season progresses, his game will continue to emerge.
This is the furthest Utah State has been into Trojan territory, and they're going backwards now. Eric Gentry with the sack.
And it's all Braylon Shelby, the guy we just got done talking about. The effort, he crosses the face. You'll see him right there. Watch him as the snap begins. He just penetrates, and then Gentry, he got no shot. Man-to-man coverage against him. He looks like a point guard crossing him up.
3rd and 13.
Now you got fresh legs on the D-line. Anthony Lucas at the top, Jamil Muhammad at the bottom. They're going to be humming off the edge.
Play clock is low. And now Utah State's going to have to use a timeout. They started to bring Brock Lane in motion with 2 seconds on the play clock.
Charge timeout, Utah State, their first of the half. Timeout on the field.
You know, there was so much momentum in the building prior to that 3rd down. I think the timeout's going to help Utah State. Will be right back for a critical 3rd down. Welcome back, and that man with a headset turning around is Eric Henderson, the co-defensive coordinator, the guy who coached Aaron Donald, who's in the building and has really transformed a lot of this defensive line alongside Sean Nua. Got a feeling this defensive line is going to get after it here on a critical 3rd down.
3rd and 12 after Utah State uses a timeout. Barnes gets stood up. Jamil Muhammad. I mean, take your pick. That was a swarm on that defensive front for USC.
Well, it looks like it's going to be pressure, and you see all these guys on the defensive side. Watch as the snap unfolds. Mascarenas Arnold, he drops into coverage. Gentry, he's playing coverage, kind of a spy on Bryson Barnes, and here we go, 4th down, they're going for it.
Barnes, pressure, and he gets dropped by Kamari Ramsey. Ball came out incomplete, and it's the second turnover on downs forced by the Trojan defense.
When you bring pressure, you have got to get home. You've got to get to that quarterback. Kamari Ramsey, it's a race to the quarterback before he can get rid of the rock, because it's a completion to the wide side of the field. Ramsey showcasing the speeds. How about his hand placement? Going right after that right arm, coming off the edge. Beautifully designed, perfectly executed. Utah State called the right play, just couldn't protect for long enough, and the transfer from across town continues to make plays for the Trojans.
He's also a LA area guy, went to Sierra Canyon High School, well known as a basketball power. That's where Bronny James went to school, started at UCLA, as Yogi said. Danton Lynn, he came along and has been an instant impact. So USC takes over, 1st and 10. Miller Moss, Quentin Joyner the back, and Moss is going to keep this, and he gets across midfield. How about that?
Not necessarily on the scouting report. Miller Moss on a little zone read here, sees everything crash down. He keeps it and doesn't slide down. Kind of takes a little bit of a hit. And now every defensive coordinator going against SC says, all right, we got to prepare for that too.
Yeah, he's doing his Caleb Williams.
Yeah. I imagine Caleb's asleep in advance of that first start here.
Moss, nice touch. There's Quentin Joyner, and he cuts it back. Joyner gets a 1st down for USC, still churning, and he gets down almost to the 40.
That's kind of been a big takeaway, is the touch of Miller Moss. I mean, how many of these have we seen tonight? A variety of different arm angles, ball placement, over the defender's outstretched arms. Watch that right foot get in the ground, and Joyner didn't get a ton of burn, only 13 snaps against LSU, but as Lincoln Riley told Rhett Lewis before the half, they want to run the football. They have to feed a variety of backs. It's a long season. Joyner playing well.
High snap, but Moss handled it. Joyner, stiff arm, and he gets a pickup of 5.
Patience and staying square from Joyner is really impressive. How about the blocks at the top of the screen? Makai Lemon right there. How about number 10? Hudson right there. I mean, everybody's getting involved in the run game, and we haven't seen any loafs from USC offensively.
Yeah, it just makes you wonder, Yogi, what's their flaw on offense?
Well, let's see until they go to Ann Arbor.
I understand it's early, but I mean, they've got balance with the run game. They've got receivers coming out of their ears, a talented, maybe young at spots, but a talented offensive line.
Well, I think that's the point around USC all offseason. There was, to me, a lot of unnecessary criticism about this team, and it's like, let them play. You know they're going to score offensively. You know the weapons that you just referenced. If you follow them, you knew the offensive line was going to be better. And you just have to assume the defense was going to get better. They added the 6 transfers who are starting now, and this team has taken the next step. So, yeah, it's going to be a challenge, because that man right there is one of the best play callers in America.
Three-man rush. And there's Jacoby Lane, spun down by John Ross May. And there's so many great tight ends in this league. We've seen Lake McCree's having a career night. We still haven't seen Walker Lyons, the young freshman who will be heard from right before things are through here this season.
Well, I think that you referenced the weapons. That's also the challenge. How do you find guys flow? How do you feed guys that are hot? How do you heat them up?
Brian Jackson, who got a few carries in the first half. Speaking of youngsters, a freshman. He gets spun down. Well, you were here at the height. There were playmakers all over the place.
Well, what made that era so special, and I think what is developing here under Lincoln Riley, is the competitive nature at every position is different than it was for him in year 1 and definitely in year 2. Just in terms of, you're not just allowed to just go play because you're the guy on the top of the depth chart or in that position room. You got to go earn it. The competitive temperament is getting to that place.
Walker Lyons has come into the game for the first time this year, first time in his career. He's wearing 85 for USC. And he's blocking in front of Quentin Joyner. And a great block by Walker Lyons. He and Elijah Page helping clear the way with Emmanuel Pregnant for Joyner.
Yeah, really cool story right there. 85, top of your screen. You know, a year ago he's in Norway on a mission. Now he's blocking inside run game against Utah State.
2 years ago, he got hurt in the first game of his senior year of high school football and missed the whole year. I mean, we're talking about the #2 tight end recruit in the nation in that class. He stays in the game with Cade Eldridge, the other tight end. Moss almost intercepted. That got jumped by Ike Larson. Wait, Ike Larson smells the football like a receiver, doesn't he?
Ike Larson is having a heck of a game. The captain, watch him just drive on this. He saw it the whole time, and Miller Moss lucky that is not pick 6 going the other way.
He's a high-level player. He's belonged on the field tonight, there's no doubt. 2nd down and 10 for Moss. Wants to throw. And he's got Cade Eldridge, who's able to hold on and get the first down.
Man, it has been a physical game, hasn't it? I mean, you can hear the paths clacking right there. Miller Moss just taking the easy out route. I love how USC continues to use tight ends. Whew.
Well, that was his first career catch. He wasn't going to let it go for the redshirt freshman up in Linden, Washington. Quentin Joyner stays in the game at running back. 2 tight ends remain in the game for USC. 1st down and goal. Joyner. And on his back that time, Gabe Peterson, one of the players that transferred in from New Mexico State with this defensive staff. Over 200 yards on the ground for USC in this game.
Yeah, they just put you in such a bind at linebacker with all those tight ends. See Kyle Forden and a bunch at the bottom of the screen as well. Those are big bodies. I'd run it right behind him.
Pistol formation for the first time in this game. Joyner, and he steps in. 2nd touchdown of the night for Quentin Joyner. This has been a dominant running effort for this USC offense. They're over 430 yards, and it's just big, long drives. That one was 11 plays. Michael Lance remains perfect on the operation with Hank Pepper and Eddie Czapleski.
These tight end group, they've all played well. How about Cade Eldridge right here at tight end? Watch the block that he's going to make to spring this touchdown. I mean, it's been such a physical group, guy. You know, they don't have a ton of catches. I know they've all had a few. McCree's played well, but it has been physical at the point of attack, and the Trojans, they're running the rock.
The final drive recaps the entire day around the conference. Tonight after football, only on the Big Ten Network and the Fox Sports app. It's been a party here in LA tonight. Somebody tried to turn the lights down, tell everybody time to go.
After hours in Hollywood, baby. After hours.
.229 rushing yards for USC. Dan Lynn, he's got a ways to go tonight, but his defense pitching a shutout right now. Dan Lynn, in his first home game at USC as the defensive coordinator, put up a 0 right now. Now, Rhett down on the field loves offense, but we came out of the meeting with Dan Lynn the other night. I thought Rhett was ready to switch to defensive end.
You know, I was pretty fired up there, Guy, listening to D'Anton Lynn talk about his core principles with this defense, right? The obnoxious communication, the shocking effort, and the way that they want to attack offenses. They check the box on effort against LSU. It feels like they're checking the boxes on the other two pieces tonight. And that ability to communicate that message, Guy, is something that D'Anton learned when he was in the NFL and had an opportunity to get nominated to be a head coach for the East-West Shrine Bowl, where he got a chance to learn how to stand in front of the team, communicate the message, and kind of help them understand what he was trying to ask of them, and that's really helped him in this coordinator role as he made the transition to college.
I know, Yogi, you talk to a lot of coaches about D'Anton Lynn. You talk to a lot of people about D'Anton Lynn. What stands out about him and how he's been able to get things seemingly turned so quickly?
I think the thing that really stands out, honestly, is how he teaches. When he first got to UCLA, just the pragmatic approach. When he first got to USC, like the springs aren't give him everything, give him the whole playbook. It's no, let's just do one thing really well, then two, and then three. And when you talk to players, they say he always has a why and an answer for the reasoning behind the call, and then what to do, what you must do in certain calls on defense, like right now on a 3rd and 6.
Barnes pressured and sacked. Akili Arnold and Devin Tompkins combining to bring down that Aggie quarterback. And here's 4th down.
I mean, just imagine playing quarterback right now if you're Bryce Barnes. It looks like pressure, They only bring 4. Braylon Shelby drops to where you wanted to throw, and coming off the edge was Mr. Arnold, and inside out was a guy with a huge ceiling in Devin Tompkins.
They're loving moving him around a little more this year, aren't they?
Yeah, he's played the end, he's played the tackle, he's played over the center. He and Braylon Shelby, that is going to be a duo for quite some time here.
Zachariah Branch really hasn't had a good chance at a return yet tonight. And he's cut down here after a very short return by Kyrese White. USC's offense coming back out. #648th game ever played here at the Coliseum. Only Bobby Dodd Stadium at Georgia Tech and Neyland for Tennessee has hosted more football than this place. Miller Moss dreamed about playing in this stadium. He did it tonight as a starter, and now he gives way to Jaden Maiava. Moss's night is done, and on comes the transfer from UNLV, just a redshirt sophomore from Pololo, Hawaii, handing it off to Quentin Joyner, and Jaden Maiava comes in with a very impressive background, Yogi.
Yeah, and a really impressive story around his quarterback growth. He didn't have a dream at 6 years old like Miller Moss did of playing here at USC. He didn't start playing quarterback until he was a teenager. Didn't have a private coach, 3 different high schools. Eventually found his way, and he has made a huge jump in this quarterback room since the spring.
Fumbles that snap, but then picks it up. Stays cool, throws it downfield, and did Kyle Ford get his hands underneath it? Yes, he caught it. 1st down. Great highlight there. And let's go to Big Ten Studio Update with Ashley Adamson.
Guy, it was a wild night at Autzen, Oregon, and Boise State tied at 34. Atticus Sappington, the hero tonight. From 25 yards out, it's the game winner. Ducks get their first ever win over Boise State, 37-34.
Wow. How about that, Yogi? Maiava's going to check it down to Walker Lyons, the first career catch for the freshman. A big moment for him. A long road back after that injury his senior year of high school to start it. And then, Yogi, as you mentioned, on a mission. And here he connects for Jaden Maiava's 2nd completion as a Trojan.
Well, you see his athleticism in the pockets, what allowed him to success last year at UNLV. Remember, he was a commit to Georgia, and he just started rethinking it. Said, I really want to play for Lincoln Riley. I want to play in this system. I want to play at USC. Came here in the spring and just really committed himself to this system all off season.
Touch pass to Brian Jackson for a couple. Yeah, this is not Maiava This is not some unproven talent here, right? He was the freshman of the year in the Mountain West last year, a winner. Took UNLV to their most wins since 1984 and their first ever Mountain West title appearance.
Yeah, I think he's just scratching the surface. You look at how he's developing in that quarterback room. So Miller Moss understands how to be a backup better than anybody. So the tutelage from him to Mailava is phenomenal. And I gotta say, I love the bloodlines. Kaluka, his uncle, used to play linebacker here for the Trojans back in the day.
Brian Jackson on 3rd down and short, able to churn and pick up the first. I mean, you know, we saw the photo of all the Heisman winners. You think about all the great quarterbacks. You've been in those quarterback rooms, right? You start talking about legacy. That is Caleb, right? Miller Moss behind him, Jade Mailava behind him. And now you start building something. Guys learning from guys and passing it on.
I mean, that's how it was when you think about Carson, and then you think about Leinart, and then you think about Castle was on the bench, and then he went to the NFL for over a decade, and then Booty, John David Booty, and then Mark Sanchez and Matt Barkley, who's here tonight.
Brian Jackson down inside the 10. Been a hard-nosed game on the field. We should have known it was going to be physical when this night started. And you think about the history, right? The run game. Look at this coaching staff in 05, Yogi.
It was amazing. Steve Sarkisian, far left. Lane Kiffin, a couple guys into the right. I mean, so many special people. That was the night after Reggie Bush
Hold on.
won
How
the
about
Heisman.
Sorry to interrupt, but the guy in the back right in the shadows.
Yeah.
Walker Lyons gets tied up. That was you.
That was me. That was an old school photo. Old school memory. Great to see 14 out here and 5 in the end zone.
On to the 4th quarter. Football on the Big Ten Network is brought to you by Discover and by Auto Owners Insurance. Tradition here at the Coliseum, light the torch to start the 4th quarter, but there was an announcement to the crowd that because of the partial power outage here, it wouldn't light. The crowd groaned, lit up their phones, and then all of a sudden, Yogi, magic. The torch found it. How cool is this?
The power of the Collie. And it's a historic day here at the Coliseum. Not only is it going to be a nice win for the Trojans, but Reggie Bush, Caleb Williams, the torch.
This is Jay Fair trying to get to the edge to start this 4th quarter.
And everybody who's been here or tracked this team, whether it's Jay Fair coming in post-spring or Mailava as the quarterback, they know the history of the Coliseum. They know about the peristyle Inn. They know about lighting the torch in the 4th. Now they can be a part of it. And this is great because it's still early in the season. SC is going into a bye after this game, and the staff is going to have to decide, all right, what is the cutoff here with players that we think can help us? And if guys keep playing well, they'll keep playing them.
Mailava dances away again. Mailava trying to make magic. The path is clear, and he scores a touchdown. The first of his USC career. All smiles on that sideline tonight. (41-0).
How about the athleticism? Student section still sticking around to watching a guy who competed for this job in camp, in Jaden Mailava. Lincoln Riley said it was a pretty tight race, and we could see why. Free rusher, slides to his right, climbs the pocket, protects the ball, and then says, I got a little green grass. I'm going to get a little touchdown for myself tonight. No matter how many times he finds the end zone, this young man is going to remember this one forever, racing to cross the goal line. Got the old Matt Leinart celebration. The ball up in the air. Lincoln Riley fired up. How about Miller Moss? Jacked up. He knows the amount of work that goes into it, and love just everyone celebrating the work ethic, the competitive nature, and then the finish by Jaden Mayava, his first time playing with this uniform on.
Well, there's been so much talk. We've heard it this week, Yogi. What a tight-knit group this is, that they think they've got something special in that locker room.
Well, I think last year, at the end of the regular season, so many players declared for the draft.
It's another touchback. Coming up on Wednesday, a great women's volleyball matchup comes your way when Mia Tuaninga leads the Trojans into a showdown with third-ranked Pitt. Live coverage begins at 9 Eastern, 6 Pacific, only on the Big Ten Network and the Fox Sports app.
Okay, just to kind of get back to that point, regular season ends, and so many players either declared for the draft like Caleb Williams or hit the transfer portal. So Lincoln Riley, he told us he basically had 2 spring footballs. So in advance of the Holiday Bowl, they didn't have a lot of bodies, but the bodies they had, he said that was the beginning of our offseason program, led by QB1 Miller Moss, and so many of those foundational players in their second year in the program. Then you hit the winter training circuit, guys got connected, then you hit spring ball, and then you got to training camp, and you're right, this is a tight unit. And I think when teams, especially teams in LA like USC with a ton of hype, oftentimes you don't see them celebrating together, right? It can become individualized, especially in this era of college football. That has not been the USC of this year.
Yeah, guys, just to add on that, Yogi, with what you're saying there, I mean, it's kind of the evolution of this program a little bit, right, with what Lincoln Riley has done from year 1 to year 3. Remember, year 1, we were seeing a bunch of freshmen, right? We were seeing a bunch of young guys contribute because they needed to. But now in year 3, Lincoln was telling us about how some of these talented freshmen, always a talented recruiting class here, some of these talented freshmen are now having to fight for their opportunity.
Offense number 56, 10-yard penalty from the spot of the foul, second down.
Yeah, so I mean, it's great now that the Trojans have an opportunity in a game like this to give some reps to Walker Lyons at tight end, to give some reps, to their running back, Brian Jackson. But these freshmen are really in a fight to try to find their way onto the field because of the evolution of some of those foundational players that you're talking about, Yogi.
Yeah, I think just the depth at every position, right? You know it from playing. We've all experienced it when you walk into your meeting room every day and the job isn't handed to you. It's just different. And the competitive depth is really the area that has grown so much here at USC, either getting the right guys in the transfer portal or developing the right guys through high school. I think back to when I was coaching here on the staff, you see Dan Lynn trying to keep that shutout going here, this defense. To play in the Coliseum is a big deal, just like it is in any home stadium. But here in LA, I mean, this beautiful stadium can swallow you. And now for these backups, they got an opportunity to really make a little bit of noise. So whether that's Anthony Beavers now playing a little linebacker,
Sam Green, who just made that tackle.
That's right. Just a variety of different faces and players we're seeing now trying to make a mark.
I have to tell you something. Playing in the Coliseum, what's cool just being in the Coliseum is really cool. That's incomplete.
And those are 2 young players that they know it's really cool to play here. Desmond Stevens and linebacker dropping into coverage. And how about Marcellus Williams? Trojan fans know his brother Max. He was a talented player here for the Trojans a couple years ago. Those 2 freshmen have an opportunity to play their way into impactful roles, not just on special teams, but within this defense as the year progresses.
Saw Zachariah Branch a moment ago on the sideline talking to Miller Moss. He'd love to get free. This is way up in the air. A pop-up out to right center, and it bounces out of bounds. There have been so many great playmakers over the years. Yogi, you work with a lot of them, saw a lot of them up close.
Well, Mike Williams now on the staff here at USC out of Tampa was just dominant from the moment he got on campus. Steve Smith was an All-American, found his way to win a Super Bowl. Dwayne Jarrett They called him DJ from New Jersey. God, he was special, and then it just kept going. Robert Woods continued on. Marquise Lee wins a Biletnikoff Award. So many gifted wideouts. I'm not even talking about Keyshawn Johnson and guys from even further back in the day like Curtis Conway. But Zachariah Branch, he wants to be part of that next conversation after last year. Of course he was, and that's really the element of this group that I think makes him special. Jacoby Lane, Mekhi Lemon, Branch, you see those three talking right there. Add in Deuce Robinson, Kyron Hudson. We were saying in the preseason, one of the most talented receiving corps, if not the most talented in America. I think they're going to scare a lot of defensive coordinators as they enter conference play in 2 weeks.
Maiava steps up and bullets to throw out of the reach of Jay Fair. Kean Sloan was bringing pressure.
And I think just that graphic and those images, it speaks to exactly what Rhett Lewis was talking about earlier, of the competitive depth at wide receiver. You got to bring it every day, because they don't just have the 5 we've talked about. They got 3 more that we're seeing on the field right now. They're trying to find time, right? We talked about Kyle Ford and the 2 big plays he had a week ago. We're seeing some of the young guys right now on this field. You have to compete in every element of that position group.
Amarion Peterson gets his first carry of the night, the 3rd carry of his career, a redshirt freshman who, speaking of upside, they really feel like can be a all-around back of the future here at USC. We have an injured player down on the field. And so we will step aside here in LA. Let's take a look at tonight's hardest working player, sponsored by Liberty Mutual. Woody Marks, 103 rushing yards, the most by a USC running back in the first half since Ronald Jones did it in 2017. On 13 carries, 7.9.
And this is a program that has always been known for running the football. So you think about that, since 2017. That's the shocking part, and also paints a picture of SC. With Lincoln Riley, they're going to run the football. Really impressive job tonight. Offensive line, tight ends, of course, Marks in that running back room.
Maiava throws, and it's broken up. Killian O'Connor, by the way, was the player that was down, was able to come off the field.
How about Dennis Simmons, the job that he has done with this receiving corps, developing guys, and most importantly, keeping the room healthy. We've talked to him about that in the offseason. We're here in training camp talking to him about that exact thing. And he said, look, it's not easy, but you just got to be honest with guys. You know, he knows the position as well as anybody. I think back in his days at Texas Tech and Michael Crabtree. I mean, he's been part of this system for so long at so many stops. Everyone who's been coached by him just raves about the detail in which he challenges you with every single time out on the practice field.
Eddie Czaplicki to punt it away. What a night in LA. This night belongs to the Trojans. Well, another great night for Miller Moss. His first career start in the Holiday Bowl last year. 6 touchdowns. Against LSU, career high 378, Big Ten Offensive Player of the Week. Tonight, not getting a full game in, his first career start at the Coliseum, 229 yards and a touchdown, 21 of 30. That's 70% completion after the first punt of the night for USC. A flag before Utah State can start its possession. USC tonight has 8 scoring plays to Utah State's 7 first downs.
5-yard
pretty good stat.
First down.
It's a pretty good stat. I think that's the thing that stands out the most to Miller, and he'll look at tonight's game and knowing him, he's going to say, yeah, there's a couple things I got to improve upon, right? Almost threw a pick 6. It wasn't flawless, but what is flawless is how he approached the craft amid adversity.
Kyrese White with the catch, and he's got a first down.
So what's the point on that? Is that when Miller Moss came to USC, he was in the same recruiting class as Caleb Williams. And he said he told his mom after the Elite 11, which is a prestigious quarterback camp, he said, Mom, The only place I don't want to go is anywhere Caleb Williams goes. Well, Caleb goes to Oklahoma before coming here and winning the Heisman, and now his jersey's retired tonight forever here at the Collie. And when he transferred to SC, Miller said, you know, Mom, it's kind of funny. I'm going to go learn. I'm going to go compete. He could have easily decided to dip.
Well, it's a good reminder, too, right? Elite 11, he was an elite prospect, a 4-star prospect. Look at this group.
Look at this group. I mean, you got he and Caleb right in the middle there, but on the far right and far left, you got Drake May and J.J. McCarthy. But how about those two? So for him to come back and say, you know what, the only place I don't want to go is wherever he goes, and then he shows up here, and then it would have been easy for him to leave. And he said, I kept looking at my next decision, and it was always the best one to stay. Coached by Lincoln Riley, coached by Cliff Kingsbury.
Third down here for Barnes. Long throw. And Kyrie White can't find the ball. And sit behind Caleb, right? That was another positive.
And also, oh, by the way, finish his degree, which he did in a little over 2 years. And the whole time, he just said there was never a better option. So it's not like he had blinders on. It's not like he didn't go through the process. But he really evaluated it with tremendous discernment. And oh, by the way, when he plays with tremendous discernment at the position. So I just think it's a great example. Like, everybody's not going to stay at their initial school. But when you do make your decision, Miller Moss is a great comp and say, well, what is the next best decision? Is it better than my reality? And for Miller Moss, the kid who grew up dreaming about playing here, it never was. And now look how it's playing out.
It was amazing talking to his mom, Emily Kovner Moss.
Delay game, kicking team, 5-yard penalty, 4th down.
She was just so, she said, I'm just so proud of him. Every time I started bringing up plan B, plan C, he was so steadfast in his belief that this was the right, being with Lincoln Riley, being with Caleb Williams, this was the right place for him. And that he would find his way, his patience would pay off.
And it has. And you know what? It's amazing to look at that Elite 11 photo. Look at Branch back here, see if he can get loose.
Branch not forcing the issue either. He's patient. Fair catch. Next Saturday, a triple header of action kicks off with 10th-ranked Michigan against Arkansas State at the Big House. Coverage begins with Big Ten Tailgate at 10 a.m. Eastern, 7 Pacific, only on the Big Ten Network and the Fox Sports app.
What's up, everybody? It's great to be back in the Collie, but I need you to get hyped! It's time for your Trojans! 5, 4, 3, 2, 1!
That was Matt Barkley before the game, and that's Matt Barkley now, Yogi. What happened? He sent you that photo.
Yeah, he sent me a photo with this photo, and he said, I may or may not have headbutted Jacoby Covington in the tunnel, getting hyped. And if you know Matt Barkley at all, he's got a great infectious energy to him. He loves this place like any former Trojan does, and he was elite here. He was so special. Came in as a freshman, balled out, could have left early, decided to come on back. Left a true legacy at USC. Now he's also a colleague. He called the game last week at Big Ten Network, Matt. Thanks for sending the photo. Love you, man.
That's awesome. Meanwhile, here on the field, we've got a meeting. You see Lincoln Riley, our referee Tim O'Day, Utah State's head coach Nate Dreiling. We had partial outage to those light banks across the field from us, but that's the USC sideline. But now more of them have gone out. We've been playing the whole second half with not all of the lighting. The heat wave in LA has affected power. We lost some lights. They decided to play on after a short delay, but now we've lost more light. There you see athletics director Jen Cohen behind Lincoln Riley. And there you can see that to the left and the top of your screen, all those lights are out right now.
Yeah, you just kind of watch them slowly throughout this second half just go off.
All right, we got boots on the ground down on the field. Rhett, what are you hearing? What are you seeing?
Yeah, guys, when this thing started, when the power outage first happened, I was looking down around the field, like this doesn't look all that different on the field for the players. Obviously in the stands, you could tell there was darkness, especially in those upper sections. But now this latest development has definitely cast a little bit more darkness here on the field, which has obviously prompted this meeting to find out what they're going to do here, as it looks like the Coliseum has lost a couple more of those light banks. It's definitely noticeable, though, Guy Yogi, down here.
Yeah, I mean, so we went from the lights that were out not coming back on, and now more lights going out.
And slowly, every time you kind of peek up after each drive, another layer of those lights really right on both 20-yard lines. Got less and less.
Miller Moss, great night for him tonight. You know, number 7, I mentioned it earlier, Yogi, but the experience of Matt Barkley. These are both LA guys. The pressure that comes with that. You recruited Matt Barkley from the time he was a young teen. So as they talk here, we'll keep an eye on this, but I want your perspective on what you learned from that experience with Matt and how you think it applies to Miller, right? This is his town, and it's a lot of pressure.
Well, we said it in the open, and I really believe this in my time working the Cubes here, is that when you sign at SC, you're a household name. Everybody knows the quarterback who signs at USC every single year at signing period. And then when you start, you're already thrown into the conversation around being a Heisman candidate. And that is a lot of pressure. And what I loved back in the day when Carson won it and Matt Leinart won it and then John David Booty and Mark Sanchez is they got to sit and learn. And then when they played, they got to rip it. And that's where Miller Moss sits. Matt Barkley didn't have that. He came in and had to play from jump.
All right, we've got a stoppage here, a delay, power, some lights are out, and we'll step aside. We're in a lighting delay here in LA. The 10-12 left in the fourth quarter. They've been playing all of the second half with less than the full capacity of lighting. You can see 2 lights just came back on. They're on the top of your screen. Those lights just came on during the break and got a big cheer from the crowd here. Hey, Yogi, look, it's a 41-0 game, but you only get so many games, right? Like, these guys want to play this game.
Yeah, and you only get 6 at home at the Coliseum under the spotlight of this stadium. And I think as you kind of spin it forward and you think about the USC Trojans, not a lot of games on this schedule you're saying, yep, everybody's going to be able to get in. That's why I'd be competing if I was on that sideline as a backup saying, keep playing. But in 2 weeks, them and Michigan come off a bye. What's Michigan going to look like after what they went through today? Who's going to play quarterback? How are they going to bounce back as the defending champs? And God, can you imagine a world where Michigan loses 2 home games in a row?
Well, but I'll give you the other
I can right now.
Yeah, but I'll give you the other side of this, right? If you're Michigan, we had a 12-team playoff. Like, you need big wins. You're feeling pretty good about the fact that USC is going to come to your place looking pretty sweet, right? Like, that helps you.
And as all the lights now are starting to pop on at the Collie.
And the delay ends. Everyone's back on the field, and here we go. Jade Mayava on the move, and he throws complete to Charles Ross, the transfer from San Jose State, Nevada before that, and his first catch of the year.
Nice job of Mayava feeling the corner pressure, rotating to his right, and his job of staying fresh for the Trojans. And I'll tell you what, it does look dramatically different now.
Yeah.
Like we kind of got used to no lights being on or minimal lighting.
That's Brian Jackson. 500 total yards of offense for USC. As we're under 10 minutes now remaining. So LSU last week, it's so easy now in the fourth quarter, Yogi, to look at this game and go, yeah, of course, they were dominant last week, they're dominant again. But that's not what you're feeling all week, right, if you're a coach. If you're a coach, you're going, how do we prevent a letdown after it wasn't just a win, it was a neutral site win where the Super Bowl was just played, confetti all over the field, players doing confetti angels on the ground, and it was a short week. So what question did this team answer as Mayava connects over the middle with Jaden Richardson, his first career catch as a Trojan, the transfer from Tufts? What does that tell you about this team?
Well, it tells me that they're becoming a really mature group, and that was the big challenge for this team. And while the game kicked off at 11 p.m. Eastern, 8 o'clock here in LA, I think it was a good thing for the Trojans because they got to see Notre Dame get upset. They got to see some really tight games across the country. I'm sure that made their chin straps get locked in a little bit tighter, saying, hey, let's leave no doubt today and be the team we believe we already are.
First down and 10. Back into the red zone. And Richardson can't hang on there. He had Josiah Zamora blocking in front.
Now, Richardson's a great story, by the way. D3 transfer, high academic achiever, acts like a vet, like a pro. When asked about coming to SC, he said it was a no-brainer. And I think when you look at the transfer portal, guys that come up, it's amazing because you prove yourself at a lower level where no one was looking at Richardson coming out of high school at the Power 4 level. And now he's playing for USC in the Los Angeles Memorial Coliseum.
He's from Northern California, so you know this place means something to him. It's a strong run there from Amarian Peterson.
I'll say even for Utah State, 41-0, right? Clearly not the upset that they all had imagined last night when they went to bed. But I think Utah State, they got a brutal schedule, but overall, like, they didn't give up a ton of explosive plays. They didn't get run out of the building early on in this ball game. Like, there's some things you could look at and say, we could take some positives out of this game.
We had fun talking to Nate Dreiling, right? He said this is such an opportunity. He was just
on the play clock.
bouncing out of his chair, it felt like. And Lincoln Riley's going to take that timeout. You can even hear him there say, I'm going to take it with 1 second on the play clock.
It will be 30 seconds in length.
Why do you think he takes that timeout?
Well, I think he just wants to make sure that we're going to get in the exact right play. This is clearly the backups. They're always trying to execute here. You can't mimic these situations. Like, USC's trying to do that often, like every staff around the country in practice, but to get a third down inside the 15 with your backup quarterback that's a shoelace away from leading or guiding this team to potentially a playoff run, and with the tradition that they have, that is what this team thinks internally they can go do.
Well, you look at that and you go, yeah, championship team, right? 11 national titles, 8 Heisman winners, 524 NFL draft picks. Only 4 of the programs have spent more time in the top of the AP poll. So it's easy, right? Go win a national championship.
Just roll it out, yeah.
But the history says it's not that easy, even though the accomplishments are there. Here's Walker Lyons with the catch, and he stays on his feet. I mean, those numbers, as impressive as they are, and they're so impressive, have been piled up by a small number of coaches here.
Yeah, and I think definitely during a 9-year window under Pete Carroll, a guy that Miller Moss was able to connect with this offseason at the Elite 11. Coach Carroll came down and helped out the staff a little bit. And, you know, Miller, of course, was going to practices when Pete was there. But from 1980 to now, if you take out the Carroll era, there's only been 6 seasons where SC has won 10 or more games. And that usually stuns people, and it should. A lot of talent all the time, but to put it all together, not as easy as I think the nation thinks it is here in LA.
Including 2 years ago when Lincoln Riley did it. Peterson stays up and gets in. Amarian Peterson, the redshirt freshman, with his first career touchdown.
Glad the lights came back on, because this young man wanted his opportunity, made the most of it. Helmet comes off from Amos Talalele, and then the effort from Peterson was incredible.
You think they got something here?
I think they got something here, and I think once they get it going, it is not gonna slow down. All smiles on the sideline, and they should. There's so many players in this extremely tight-knit group that Lincoln Riley is leading. We asked him yesterday, is it player-led or coach-fed? And he said, it's a little combination right now. And I think as the year progresses, the leadership, the core leadership of this team is going to continue to show out. How about the leg drive right there? And then the celebration in the end zone. Miller Moss, all smiles. He knows what it's like. He led a lot of these drives. When the games were over, Caleb Williams was on his way to winning a Heisman.
Well, it's not just tough, it's smart. I mean, you highlighted there Amos Talalele. blocking without his helmet, but you could see in that highlight, Yogi, he stopped blocking. He put his hands up.
Yeah.
You cannot participate in a play after your helmet comes off. That's a personal foul. And he put his hands in the air. He said, I'm not ruining this touchdown. And that was perfect. What a smart play by him. $48-0. You know, Yogi, you've been to some Hollywood premieres in your life. You've had a Hollywood premiere in your life. This is the Big Ten's Hollywood premiere, right? We've had both Oregon and Washington have played at home. UCLA has not yet. They're on a bye. So this is the Hollywood premiere. Everyone's coming out of the theater pretty impressed.
Yeah, I think so. And knowing this team, their after party is going to be, let's take care of our bodies, because it's a long season ahead of us. And I think that's the thing that stands out. Lincoln Riley said it many times in a variety of ways, but the maturity of this group, going back to the Holiday Bowl, when a lot of this team hit the portal or went to the NFL draft, they really came together. They understand the history and also the opportunity. And I think all the things that are going on in college football, SC now has their arms around, whether that's the NIL collective world, whether that is the transfer portal, how to identify the right player, not just the one that wants to come here who's talented.
This is Herschel Turner, the freshman, with a big carry. That's the first down for Utah State in over 20 minutes of game time. So now they're thinking, we want to score, right?
Yeah.
And USC's thinking, we don't want you to score. We want a 0.
Oh, and that's the third part of this development of this program, is what they did this past offseason. And Lincoln Riley said he rolled in a whiteboard and said, let me put on my defensive coordinator vision board. And they ended up hiring a variety of coaches that were on that initial board, led by Danton Lynn.
First down. Ball's out. Was it a catch? If so, it's recovered by Colby Bowman. Josh Sturzer was the one who fumbled it. It is ruled a catch and a recovery. And it's not just Dan Lynn, right?
That's right,
The whole staff.
We talked about Eric Henderson earlier. How about Matt Enns, former head coach? Two-time. Look at us.
Which one? National champion or coach of the year? He did both twice at North Dakota State.
And then Doug Belk, who was the defensive coordinator at Houston. Like, I just think that the power of SC is magnetic. And when you have it right, you can do everything you dream of in coaching. And Pete Carroll did that in spades when he was here. I just believe that if they can get it going, and that is the opportunity this year, and I think they will. All right, Lincoln Riley has allowed us tremendous access and insight into his program. And when you're at practice or you're around the players, you're on the staff, it just feels like the trajectory. Again, we said it in the beginning, the foundation. It's a foundational year. The foundation is set.
Colby Bowman just had that big fumble recovery with his first catch of the night, and that's a first down. Transfer from Stanford, but he's local to LA, one of the many Southern Californians on this Utah State team. He went to St. John Bosco.
He was excited for this game. We had a chance to talk to him earlier this week. About 15 tickets he was requesting. He had a big off season, got engaged. He's working on his MBA. Not surprised when you look at somebody who went to Stanford out of high school.
Miller Moss's sister, we learned, is going to Stanford. She's at the game tonight, Addie, but she's on her way there. Quarter system, so they'll start later this year.
Let's talk about the ceiling, because I know every SC fan who's watching this right to the very end is thinking, all right, we're going to make some noise here in the Big Ten.
Right.
And I think after the first 2 weeks, you'd have to agree. If you look at the power rankings, and we'll go back and watch the tape and watch some of the later games today, Oregon pulls one out. Ohio State dominates. SC's in the conversation of the top third of this league. And that's why their next game is so huge. Because the loser potentially of Michigan SC could be outside looking in when you're looking at the playoff or a run to the Big Ten championship game.
Herschel Turner, another nice carry and staying on his feet.
And I go there, Guy, because of the defensive front. And I just think SC, they've always had skill position players. They've always had big-time draft picks in terms of playmakers. But in the offensive defensive line, they have not been special in that regard. Just like Texas had not been special. Been almost 20 years since Texas had a first rounder on the offensive line. Look at what they have now. You look at USC, the offensive line, Monheim at center, and some of these young players at other spots. Bregnon, they're elite. And this defensive front, we're looking at some depth right now.
Under 3 minutes here as Utah State's trying to get onto the scoreboard for the first time. Rhett, let's go down to him on the sidelines.
Yeah, guys, you know, talking about the depth, especially on that defensive front, I think it's so important to mention that they've got guys that have versatility in their frames. I mean, we talked a lot about Anthony Lucas, 6'5", 275. There was a conversation this summer, maybe we put some weight on him, move him down inside. But they love the fact that he can still do that with his size, his strength, and his athleticism. So you can get guys like Anthony Lucas, can shove him down a little bit, put Braylon Shelby out on the edge, have them on the same side. It gives Danton Lynn so many options, Yogi.
Whoa! Come up and make a play. Cameron Fountain, the true freshman, is an Under Armour All-American early enrollee from Mobile, Alabama. They were hoping he might get into this game.
Well, Rhett absolutely nailed it. The versatility is going to be a challenge. These young guys, they are up to the challenge. Cameron Fountain saying, hey, I can play too on this defensive line. We're flexing on you, Big Ten.
First home game of the year here at the Coliseum. The 101-year-old LA Memorial Coliseum. Still got it. Still got it.
Only so many times. You know, every staff says it. Lincoln Riley to the team. They're not in the Coliseum a ton. It's such a special opportunity. And I know this defense came out of that 2-minute timeout saying, hey, let's finish this thing off.
3rd down and 9. If you're thinking about a shutout, Utah State is in field goal range, but flags to blow this play dead.
False start, offense number 56, 5-yard penalty, 3rd down.
That's Cole Moats, the left tackle. Danton Lynn, we really had a great time talking to him this week. Anthony Ray, right? Anthony Ray II. His dad's an NFL coach, NFL head coach of the Chargers. He's with the Buccaneers now. He starts his, the Commanders now, starts his season tomorrow. Danton, a name he picked up when he was already a couple years old. He told us the story. It's well, because he had a nickname, and his mom didn't like everybody at Texas Tech, where his dad was playing football, calling young Anthony Bubba. Good run here from Herschel Turner, but he gets turned back, and that may push, we'll see, Utah State to the verge of their field goal range here after the penalty and the loss of 6. They are going to bring Elliot Nimrod out. This is just a little beyond where they said they'd be comfortable kicking, but inside of the max range. Now remember, they don't know exactly. He was making from 52 this exact distance in warm-ups, but they're used to kicking at elevation in Logan. To try and break the shutout. And that is no good. He had the leg, but Danton Lynn's defense keeps the 0 on the board. And if you're wondering if they cared about it, there's your answer.
The sideline erupted like it was a week ago in Vegas. Look at him. I mean, what a turnaround, man. I get the opponent and all that, but you can't forget about what happened 6 days ago in Las Vegas and the turnaround since Danton Lynn and this overhaul for the majority on the defensive staff outside of Sean Nua and the development of players like that, Eric Gentry. I mean, last 2 weeks he's been all over the field. Tonight, no Mason Cobb.
Jake Jensen, the 3rd-string quarterback, in to take the kneel. I do want to, just because USC, they're in the headlines, they always are. They're only getting brighter lights now. Lincoln Riley goes, hires Danton Lynn. People try to figure out how to say his name. A lot of people are saying DeAnton, which he told us, yeah, that's actually not wrong. D'Anton means of Anthony, right? Anthony's son. He said, but my parents are from Texas. So they took the Italian and said, we're going to make it Dan. Well, how about this, right? Big win over LSU. They move up from 23 to 13. They come home at the Coliseum. The Big Ten era begins here in Southern California. And they left no doubt. They left no room for AIR for this Utah State team tonight.
I think in the 3 years that Lincoln Riley has been here, it's early. It's early September. This is the first time it feels as though it's not hype. It's real. Right? In year one, you didn't know. You didn't know. They caught lightning in a bottle. Schedule help. They had the best player in the world in Caleb Williams. Year two, they struggled. Right now, again, I keep going back to a guy. It's a foundational year. The foundation is set. And look out, college football. Because in 2 weeks, they got another opportunity. I think this thing every day is just getting better and better for the Trojans.
48-0, USC improves to 2-0. And now they hit their bye before they go to Michigan for their Big Ten opener on September 21st. Lincoln Riley with Rhett. Rhett?
All right, Coach, glad we got the lights to stay on long enough to see this whole thing to fruition, because we got to see a pretty full-on complimentary effort from your squad here tonight.
Yeah, we'll pay the electric bill next time. So, yeah, no, it was. The guys played well, complimentary ball. Thrilled to get the shutout. You know, it's hard to do in modern-day college football. So, excited about the defensive performance and complimentary ball all over the field.
Yeah, and what stands out to you about the way that those guys get out onto the field this year now through 2 games on defense?
I think we're just a confident group right now. I think we believe very much in what we're doing and how we're developing. We know there's a lot more challenges coming down the road, but excited about our progress and like the group that we have.
And then what'd you think of Miller Moss tonight in his first home start here at the Coliseum after waiting his turn to lead this program?
Yeah, he's been, kind of like he's been in the first 2 starts. He's been calm, he's been steady, he's not making very many mistakes at all. He's managing it. This is a much different game plan than what we had seen from their defense, so another new challenge for him, and so far he continues to handle it well and lead our team at a high level.
Coach, thanks a bunch. Best of luck.
All right, thank you. Fight on.
All right, back up to you guys.
Celebration with his family. There's head coach Lincoln Riley, and I think he nailed it, guy. Saw defense they didn't expect, but they executed as though they expected in every phase of this game. A nice win at home to kick off.
Yeah. Hot few days here in LA. Everybody on this crew, so many people worked so hard to bring it to you. Thanks to Pat O'Connor, Denny Blunt, Brett Lewis, Yogi Roth, I'm Guy Haberman. The night's not done. Final drive is coming up next.